St. Pete Beach. Today is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. It is 6 p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so since there seems to be quite a large number of individuals who may not have been here before, I will simply reiterate the rules of decorum for tonight, to which we will adhere. You will respect the speaker. Whoever's up here, this is their time to speak. If somebody's speaking up here, you are not speaking from the audience. When you're called upon, should you wish to speak, there are yellow cards in the back. You can provide those to the city clerk. You can state the subject on which you would like to speak. You will have 3 minutes. When you come up, you will state your full name, your address. There will be no clapping, no booing, no cheering, nothing. There will be no cell phones. We will adhere to these rules, and if you do not, you're an adult, you can make your own decisions and choices. We will ask the sheriff to escort you out. So, all we ask is that you give respect to the individuals that speak so that they can be heard. It's a time from their busy lives to be here tonight. They must have something to say that's very important to them, and I'm going to ask you that you respect that. So the first item tonight is the approval of the agenda.
Mayor,
Are there any?
I do need to call roll.
Sorry, go ahead.
Vice Mayor Marriott. Here. Commissioner Robinson.
Here.
Commissioner Riznicki.
Here.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Here.
And Mayor Petrilla.
Here.
We have a quorum.
The first item that we have is the approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda as proposed?
Mayor, I do have some amendments I present for consideration. I'd like to move 6A to the very beginning of the meeting, as we have an outside consultant, and this is a time-sensitive issue due to escrow requirements. And the second and third amendments would be to remove consent items E and consent item F. They will be brought back to a future meeting with more detail.
Thank you, City Manager. Any other amendments? Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I make the motion.
I'll second.
City Clerk, if you please do a roll call.
Vice Mayor Marriott.
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson.
Yes.
Commissioner Riznicki.
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Yes.
And Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is ordinances, 6A. Final reading of ordinance 2025-15, emergency bridge loan.
This is an ordinance of the City of St. Pete Beach authorizing a loan from the State of Florida, Department of Commerce, in the principal amount of not exceeding $16 million in order to finance and reimburse operating costs incurred or to be incurred by the city in connection with hurricanes Helene and Milton, authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan agreement in connection with such loan, authorizing the issuance of a promissory note to evidence such loan, delegating certain authority to the mayor, the city manager, and other city officials to accomplish the foregoing, providing for severability, codification, and scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. This is a zero-interest loan.
Thank you.
So unless there aren't any questions, we would call for a vote. And then I've respectfully requested the mayor take a short break to actually execute the documents, and then we'll come back into regular session.
Okay. Questions, comments? Are there any audience comments on this issue?
No.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make the motion to approve.
Second?
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Robinson.
Yes.
Commissioner Riznicki.
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott.
Yes.
And Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. We will take a 5-minute recess to 6:11. The next item is presentations. The first one is for Gulf Beaches Elementary School. So as we all know, a lot of our residents suffered significant damage to their homes after, Fire Chief, thank you. We are at capacity. For safety reasons, no one else will be allowed in. Thank you. So a lot of our residents endured significant damage after last year's hurricane, especially Helene, with major flooding that included our elementary school, Gulf Beaches Elementary. And last Saturday, August 6th, was more than just a reopening of a school building. It was a homecoming of a true community cornerstone here in St. Pete Beach. For months, Gulf Beaches Elementary Magnet School stood as a reminder of the difficult challenges that we all faced. But today, it stands as a powerful symbol of what's possible when determination meets unity. Through incredible perseverance, remarkable teamwork, and an outpouring of love and support from family, staff, neighbors, and community partners, Gulf Beaches Elementary School has once again reopened its doors to welcome students back where they'll belong. The effort was far more than bricks and mortars. It was about restoring a place where children learn, where they grow, and where they dream. Last weekend's ribbon cutting was nothing short of inspiring. The air was alive with excitement, the laughter of children, the pride of parents, the relief and joy of the faces of the staff and teachers were able to come back to work. Every smile told a story of resilience, of hope, and of a community that refuses to be defined by hardship. We're truly honored to make this presentation today as we stand alongside Gulf Beaches Elementary as they begin this new chapter. Here's to a bright, successful, and inspiring school year ahead for every student, teacher, and staff member, and to the unshakable spirit of St. Pete Beach. And this is the plaque that they presented us with. So I wanted to bring this here for, would you all mind just coming together and we can send them a picture of this? Thank you. The next item on the list is 2B, the recognition of the employee of the third quarter.
Thank you, Mayor, City Commission. I am pleased tonight to announce that Jenny Bodkin, Deputy City Clerk, has been nominated and voted Employee of the Quarter for Quarter 3. Just a few highlights of why she was nominated. We recently had a vacancy of the City Clerk, and Jenny stepped up and made sure, as the acting City Clerk, that the office was set up for success. She stepped in to take over the clerk's responsibilities while a new clerk was hired. While balancing all of her own duties, she also published and recorded all City Commission meetings, workshops, and community meetings, which we've had quite a few more, as you know, in the last few months, in addition to attending the advisory board meetings, pre- and post-agenda meetings, full management meetings, and the strategic leadership meetings, all of which require preparation and hours of video review for minute taking. Despite her demanding schedule and overflowing plate, Jenny still found time to train a handful of employees on Civic Clerk and Laserfiche, making sure she was always around to answer questions and help when needed. Also participating in our new finance software implementation, attending all the training, and making sure that the city clerk's office budget was prepared appropriately for presentation during budget season. Before Clerk Rose started, Jenny made sure that the city had standard operating procedures in place to ensure a smooth transition. She prepared all necessary materials for the new clerk, trained her on the city software programs, and even stayed late to shadow her during the first city commission meeting to ensure everything went smoothly. She exemplifies dedication, initiative, and excellence. Her leadership and commitment were instrumental to the continued success of the clerk's office in the city, and St. Pete Beach is incredibly lucky to have her. So if Jenny would come up here, We would like to present you with your award.
Next, we have item 2C, Fire Department Proclamation for Dolphin Village. This is a proclamation honoring the St. Pete Beach Fire Rescue for outstanding services and heroism. Whereas on May 13, 2025, a devastating fire broke out at Dolphin Village, posing an immediate and severe threat to lives, property, and the surrounding community. And whereas the St. Pete Beach Fire Rescue responded with unwavering courage, professionalism, and swift action, arriving on scene and engaging in a difficult and dangerous firefighting operation. And whereas, despite the intense heat, smoke, and structural hazard, they demonstrated exceptional coordinates, endurance, and skill, working tirelessly to contain the blaze, protect neighboring structures, and ensure the safety of residents and fellow first responders. And whereas their extraordinary teamwork and dedication under pressure exemplified the highest standard of service and reflected great credit upon themselves and their department and the city. And whereas the heroic effort not only mitigated further destruction, but also reinforced the community's deep trust and appreciation for its fire rescue personnel. Now therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and the city commission do hereby recognize and commend the St. Pete Beach Fire Rescue for their outstanding bravery, diligence, and professionalism during the May 13th Dolphin Village fire, and extend heartfelt gratitude for their steadfast commitment to protecting life and property.
This is Chief Bassett. He was the incident commander on that call.
Good evening.
Chief.
Thank you for having us this evening. I just want to say thank you to the commission, to the mayor, to fire administration. It's a very nice recognition that we're getting. I know the men and women that responded to that call very much appreciate it. A lot of them are actually on another call right now. So again, it's a team effort. Every single time they work very hard to make sure the community is safe every single day. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
For those of you who don't know, May 13th also happened to be a commission meeting. And right afterwards, the city manager and I went over to take a look. And you cannot imagine just what it looked like. It's dark. It's 10, 11 o'clock at night. Commission meeting went very long. And it just looked just fire and smoke everywhere. It was unbelievable. What they did was absolutely incredible. The fire started around 2:33 p.m. It was 11 o'clock. 8 hours later, they were still fighting it, and they were still there long after we left. So they deserve absolutely every praise. They earned it, more than earned it. So thank you. Next, we have 2D, Hurricane Recovery and Preparedness Update.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Laura Canary, Community Development Director. This evening, we're going to go over a quick update as far as it pertains to hurricane recovery in the city, and then we're going to transition into preparedness efforts. Myself and the Public Services Director, Camden Mills, are going to be tag teaming this presentation. So beginning with the hurricane recovery, we're going to talk briefly about historic designations, permit processing, demos, elevations, FEMA compliance, what Public Services is doing as it pertains to recovery and preparedness, and then we're going to talk about training and personnel, Senate Bill 180 and how that impacted our operations and service enhancements. Looking at the snapshot of historic designations, we've had 60 applications submitted through the August 3rd date. 45 of those have been approved and assigned a local historic designation, and 12 pending, 3 withdrawn. As far as certificates of appropriateness, which just want to mention that this is a step that either a property that's a contributing structure in a historic area or a designated home will need to go through this process of a certificate of appropriateness prior to demolition. So we've had 27 of those applications, 23 approved, and 4 are pending. When we look at our permit processing, we've processed 5,118 applications have been submitted. We, on a daily average, are issuing about 69 a day, so we've met that goal of 60 and continue to...
Whose cell phone is that? Please exit the room. Thank you.
So we'll continue to try and make that continue to uptick, but we're at 69 currently. As far as the inspection goes, we're averaging approximately 83 on a daily basis. Those challenges, again, still the documentation, and then also another kind of thing that we're at this phase is just applicants kind of determining next steps. We'll talk about Elevate in a little bit, and that's a perfect example of just individuals that are just now getting information that's kind of impacting what direction they're going to go in. And then the chart on the right, I want to call attention to, we have kind of it captured of the status that the permits are in, but we to date have 867 that have been closed. So we're really excited about that and just continuing to move forward and process those. As far as the demos go,
Sheriff, if he comes back inside, do not let him in. That's number 2.
We've had 138 demo permit applications, 82 issued, and 19 closed, and that does also capture those historic properties as well. I just want to call attention to, again, our average time to issue a demolition permit is 30 days, so we're right on target with our 30-day time frame, but sometimes that does take longer, and I just want to note that it really comes down to a lot of the documentation and the back and forth that's needed, but in most cases we are able to meet that 30-day time frame when we have all of the information necessary. When we look at elevations, we've received 30 elevating structure permit applications to date, and we've issued 13 of those. The average time that it's taking to, again, from the time of submittal to the time of issuance is 32 days on those elevating structure permit apps. There was a meeting pertaining to Elevate Florida on July 30th where they provided an update kind of looking at applications statewide. Of the over 12,000 applications that were submitted, 328 of those applications were from St. Pete Beach. Moving forward in the process, they basically, through the program, submitted 305 applicants to move forward to that next step. Unfortunately, 4 of those were applicants from St. Pete Beach, so as we know, that's a very small number, and it's leaving, as you can see, quite a number of people that are either going to be on the prioritized, waitlisted, or unfunded list.
So out of 12,000, just to make sure I understand, the 12,000 applicants, they've approved 350?
They've moved them to the next step, to FEMA, to move forward with moving through the process. And they anticipate, now they don't have actual numbers yet, but they anticipate total based on the 400 plus million that they have, that they'll be able to potentially fund 2,000 applications across the state when this is all said and done. So there's already discussions as far as how that looks, because as we know, there's going to be a major gap there. And there's a lot of individuals that have been waiting on this information to help them determine which direction they were going to go with their property.
Now, you only said 4 from St. Pete Beach, though, of those that are moving forward.
4 of the 305 are from St. Pete Beach. Notifications to the prioritized and waitlisted applicants began in late July, and then the unfunded notifications were starting to be sent between August 5th and the 15th. And we have talked to some individuals already in St. Pete Beach that have started to receive those notifications. When we talk about FEMA compliance and kind of the next steps in our process, as we know, goal number one is getting people back in their homes and getting them back in their homes safely. As we talked about, there was still a number of properties that we had information on that we thought had damages, right, whether it was substantially damaged or not. And we had in early April sent out letters to those property owners, basically kind of, try to catch all of, please let us know what the status is. If it's on hold, if you're still figuring it out, or you're not going to need any work, you just notify us, let us know what's going on. We did receive, a response with that mail out. So now we're at a point where we have about 800 properties left that are kind of in that same kind of category, if you will. So our next step is going to be to send a detailed letter out to those 800 property owners. And what that's going to do is just include more specific information, exactly what we know that is actual and factual on that property. So it's, again, not going to be a perfect science, but it's going to be, this is what we know elevation-wise, this is what we know, what we think water intrusion-wise, and this is what we have on your property. So please, again, reach out, let us know what the status is. And again, this is just all in essence to be in that compliance with FEMA, to show that we're trying to do our due diligence to be able to address those accordingly.
When will that go out?
We're hoping that will go out in early September to
Would it be
mid-September.
possible the commission can get a copy of that letter before it goes out, the template?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now I'm going to hand it over to Camden to talk about recovery efforts, and then I'll be back up in a few minutes.
Thank you, Laura.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Camden Mills, Public Services Director. I'd like to give a brief update on some of the recovery efforts related to capital improvements. Our facility roof repairs are now underway. As you can see, City Hall just got completed last week, and we should have the handrail completed tomorrow. The Warren Webster facility, the roof was also recently replaced on that. And we just started work on the Aquatic Center in the Haran Park Pavilion this week. And then the Community Center will be following later this month.
Camden, and I, at the expense of putting you on the spot here, was there another time we could have done the Aquatic Center? I know the pool's being resurfaced now while we're still in the summer months. Could that have waited a few months, or was there a schedule that we're trying to adhere to?
We are trying, for the roof standpoint, we're just trying to knock them all out as quickly as possible. It was more advantageous for our contractor to just come in and do them all simultaneously. So that's how they're proceeding. But the timing did work out where that resurfacing project was underway. So while the pool was shut down, we wanted to try and take advantage of that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And then to jump into preparedness and just highlight some of the efforts that are going underway right now. First off is our generator inspections. So we have backup power generators at City Hall, our 3 major wastewater pump stations, as well as 3 mobile pump stations that are housed at our public services yard. So these routine preventative maintenance inspections help ensure that these equipment will be able to operate efficiently when needed. We've also rented some bypass pump. We currently have 2 that we own, and we've rented an additional 2. These units will be used to help mitigate flooding in some of our low-lying areas, and also to help maintain sewer operation after hurricane events. We plan to hold on to these rental pumps through our storm season, and then long-term we'll be looking to upgrade the pumps that we own so we can be able to respond accordingly. And then next is a fuel auxiliary tank that we've installed on one of our utility vehicles. This allows us to fuel on site for our bypass pumps and our generators rather than having to take cans back and forth to a gas station. So this just helps us keep our equipment fueled more efficiently. And then in long term, we're looking at soliciting a request for bid for a fuel storage tank on site so that we'll be able to fill our vehicles and equipment with. And then next, I'd like to just highlight some of the pre-event preparations that our team has in our emergency operations plan that would be acted on 3 days out, 2 days out, and then the day before an event. So when an event is approaching and it looks like it's about 72 hours away from landfall, at that point we'll do a final review of our emergency management plan with staff, just making sure roles and responsibilities are clear. We'll drive around to the city and identify any potential hazards and risks, and then also begin to inventory and stock all of our equipment and needs that we'll be staging for recovery efforts. We'll secure our wastewater lift stations, continue cleaning stormwater catch basins, and then also activate our debris removal contractor to put them on standby. And then most importantly, as we take care of these events, we encourage our staff to make sure they take care of their own personal needs in anticipation that they will need to respond after an event. 2 days out, we start to remove any potential hazards from those locations that we identified the previous day. We'll begin to fuel those vehicles and equipment that we stockpiled. We'll move some of our tools, equipment to higher ground. Some of those that we won't be able to bring off of the city, we'll move those to higher ground where we can. We'll alert all of our city contractors and obtain their storm procedures, and then do one final emptying of our trash receptacles and debris bins around the city. And then importantly here is coordinate with our outside agencies, Pinellas County, the City of St. Petersburg, and Duke Energy to see what utility impacts we may foresee. And then the day before the event, that's when we'll relocate our vehicles and heavy equipment to our off-site emergency operations center. Our wastewater team is still out in the field, keeping those stations running and as waterproof for as long as possible. And that's when our coordination really gets heavy with Pinellas County to see, when and if they're shutting down portable water and asking us to shut down our sewer. And then finally, prepare for after impact reporting and setting the guidelines there. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Laura on some of her preparedness items.
Thank you, Camden.
So just a few more items on the preparedness side. Staff continues to take the ICS training on an individual basis. We also have had some recent training on Forerunner. Again, that's the new damage assessment software and we've also been receiving some in tandem training with the county on that. We're going to have an EOC functional exercise on August 21st. That's actually going to be based on a major wind event per the chief's recommendation to kind of take us through that exercise. So that'll be a great opportunity to kind of see, based on our updated plans that we have in place, like how it really works at the functional level. As far as personnel goes, we have a request for proposal that we had issued a couple months back, and this evening you have an agenda item to approve 2 contracts for community development temporary personnel during emergency and non-emergency periods. This is in essence to replace, we're currently piggybacking off of a contract, and so this is in essence again for gray sky days, but then also potentially in blue sky days. And this is to be able to have on hand those personnel to be able to tap into on an as-needed basis. With Senate Bill 180, there were a number of things that came out of the bill that kind of impacted community development in particular and building and permitting. So I just wanted to go through a few of those. I know everyone's more familiar with the first one on there, which is the prohibition on moratoriums and more restrictive burdensome amendments to the comp plan and land development regulations. Hence, we have put the comp plan amendment on hold. The no impact fees for same-use structures. The example that I like to use, because I think it's the most kind of simplified, if you will, is if you had a home that was built in 1965 that has now been demolished, then you're not going to be assessed those impact fees again, as long as it's a residential structure, same use going back up. If you're going to build a duplex, you would have the impact fees. No increases to building permit and inspection fees for 180 days after a declared state of emergency. That's in place, and we had followed that. No cumulative substantial improvement period. That's the look back. We had already removed that after the storm, so that we already had that in place and we're in compliance. Communicating post-storm permitting and inspection procedures. This is really just all about transparency, whether it's the FEMA packet or a checklist, anything, just making that readily available and on the website. We are in compliance to date, with the exception of when we make some of these final changes and have the SDAP plan adopted. We'll need to get that as not currently on the website because we have not had that adopted yet. The minimum of 40-hour permitting operations post-storm. The way that the bill reads is very kind of open-ended as far as when feasibly possible, kind of. So basically what it's saying is that in the event after a storm, that as soon as possible, you'll be back up and running and operating for 40 hours a week. Now, that does not necessarily mean that you'll be able to walk into City Hall and obtain your permit, that we'll have operations going. And in checking with the team, we were pretty much already like adhering to this, even this last events. So we'll just continue to do that, and with the new software and tools that we have and technology, we feel very confident that if we were ever in the situation again, we'd be able to get back to that 40 hours fairly quickly. And then, again, applicable changes that have been incorporated. So along these lines, we did have to make a few tweaks and changes to the SDAP. We've incorporated kind of this phase that we're talking about as far as the FEMA compliance into our SDAP, as well as the 40-hour continued operations as soon as possibly feasible. So those are the things that will be kind of noted in the draft that you all see before in the near future.
And SDAP stands for?
Substantial Damage Assessment Plan.
Thank you.
Laura, a question on a no impact fee for same structure use. If a property, a residential, let's just say, demolishes their property, but then they also split, because I've seen some lots split, and it's the same use, so each split lot now is a residential, there's no impact fee if they're adding another of same use?
If there's an addition, there would be whatever the difference is. If
An
that
additional home.
Right.
So that additional home would, so
Yes.
at least half, so half of it wouldn't have an impact fee, but the other would.
I will confirm that, but that is my understanding, that you would be subject to just on the second
New
one.
home, okay, or the additional home.
And I can confirm and get that back to you.
Thank you.
With regard to just department operations, we've been partnering with the business analysts and IT to just kind of help us really from an operational standpoint. As you all know, we've had an influx of just permit processing, calls, questions, and so we've made some system upgrades and have changed a few things operational-wise, and so we feel that we're in a really good point as far as if you call and you have a permitting question, you should either get your call answered or get a call back within a few hours at the latest. So we're really pleased with that and thankful for our partnership with IT and that they've been helping us come up with some creative solutions. And then there's also the new kiosk in the City Hall lobby, and that's a customer satisfaction survey. That was something that was added. Again, we get a lot of feedback. You guys get a lot of feedback. This was just one way that we can have that two-point communication and that touch point to really see how we're doing and hopefully in the future improve our operations. The customer satisfaction survey, we pull these on a weekly basis. It just basically says, how was your service, good or bad? And then you can add additional information if you'd like. So we intend to, again, just kind of continue checking in on this and seeing how we can further improve. But I would be remiss if I didn't take the moment to just thank the team and the community development and permitting team in particular, because I know that, they've been really inundated the last almost 11 months, and so I just want to say thank you to them, and thank you for them being so adaptable during these times and making changes so quickly and just being nimble. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question for you.
Commissioner Ruznicki?
You mentioned that one of the issues that they've noticed was that there's a delay because of the applicant, right? That they're missing documents or whatever it may be, and that's what's delaying the permitting. Is there something that we're doing to help in that process? Are we trying to streamline somehow, whether you want to call it like a checklist, like you're doing this type of remodel or addition or elevation, these are the things that we need in order to move forward. So to try to, because I've received some calls, some people upset, that now it's on hold again because they asked me for something else.
Gentlemen, very nicely, we asked you to please respect the speaker so that we can hear. When you speak, you're all facing this way. So we cannot hear each other or the person speaking here. Thank you.
So to answer your question, we have not quite gotten to a point where we're proactively reaching out to those individuals. It's something that we've talked extensively about internally and with leadership as far as how that looks. But at this point, frankly, as we get questions, we're fielding them and then responding accordingly. But ideally, especially after this round of the letters going out, what our intention is to basically go in chronological order backwards, and basically start from the oldest outstanding open permit and and just as a courtesy call, reach out and just say, and potentially even tap into our volunteers to us. That's something that we've talked to them about with assisting us with that process, but we just haven't gotten to that point yet.
Commissioner Marriott?
Yeah, thank you, Laura. I wanted to say that I have heard really good things about the building inspecting team. So I just wanted to pass that along. I know you guys hear all about it when people are upset, but I did want to say that I've heard from a number of people who've said that, man, once I got my permit and I got to the point where I was having inspections done, everything has just been very smooth and the inspectors are fantastic. So thank you for that. And then along with Commissioner Ruznicki's question, I think at one point there was some conversation about having like a one-page form so that people who are either going to be trying to get a demo permit or a new construction permit would have kind of a sheet of exactly what is required, because I think that even from some of the contractors who are working in St. Pete Beach and also working in Treasure Island and neighboring communities, I keep hearing that they say, well, I got a permit easy here, but then when I came to St. Pete Beach, they wanted different information, and I didn't know what they were going to want. And so have we made any progress towards having kind of a spot on the website or a one-page sheet so that when somebody comes in for a demo permit, they know exactly what needs to be done, in what order, and what information they're going to need to provide?
Yes, we have both the demo and elevation checklist, as well as a third list of typical inspections, a little bit different, but those typical inspections, all three of those are in draft form and frankly just a little bit too technical right now at the point where we're just massaging them before we can put them out there. And then the last thing that's going to take just a little bit longer, because we obviously also, for this one, legal needs to be involved, is the private provider checklist as well, and information, because that's another one that has been coming up more and more, and especially more recently. We're hearing a lot more about that. So I would say that you should probably see the demo and elevation one in the next week or so up and available. We're that close, but the other ones are going to be a little bit further out.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Robinson?
I had a question in regards to the process for updating for the Pinellas County Property Appraiser's Office for our permits. How often are we doing that, and what is the process for that? I just see and have been told that there's permits that have been canceled and or resubmitted for lower fees, but when you go on the property appraiser's website, they're still showing as being open or active, or they're not being canceled. Just concerned about that from a property valuation standpoint and taxes. So what is the process, and how often does that get updated?
So it's a really good question, and kind of something that had came up that we had a concern, and so we kind of talked about it with staff because I needed to understand the process. And so currently the process is on the first of the month, we send over a batch from the previous month to the property appraiser's office, and that's how it's been. That batch that we send over is basically our intake. It's all of the permit applications that we receive. And so as you can imagine, on an application, you might have a valuation for a project once you submit it, and then maybe the next day or something could be tweaked or changed, and so the amount that gets transferred over for the valuation on it is whatever that date on the first is associated with that permit. Whatever the valuation is on the first, that's the valuation that will get sent over with that permit. One of the issues is that it doesn't account for closed, abandoned, none of
Canceled,
that.
resubmittals.
Canceled, any of that. And in a lot of instances, the valuation doesn't match what is actually on the permit. So one of the things that we've talked about, again, we've always done it this way. That doesn't mean we need to continue doing it this way. So one of the things that we've talked about and that we're going to continue talking with our contact at the property appraiser's office that receives this information is when we pull the report, we're basically, again, looking at a date range and we're pulling by intake. A suggestion that we've come up with is pulling either one of two things. Either we suggest closed. Again, there will be a little bit more of a delay by the time it's reflected on the property card, but we feel that at the point of a closed permit, you're much closer, you should be on exactly for what the valuation of that permit is, whether it changed or not throughout the process. So that's going to be our recommendation because we think that at least then we'd get a more accurate reflection on the property on the property card. The other thing that I think is worth noting is that, because this was, again, I needed to kind of wrap my head around it, as far as those those estimated permit valuations, those do not impact the structure valuation or the assessed value. None of that impacts any of the valuation of the property.
Okay, and it's kind of a full circle back from that to SB 180, because I'm hearing there's a 2025 FEMA letter now. Have you heard?
I saw it today.
Yes, and I'm hearing that is, I'm waiting for the gas, roughly 50% less than what you're currently at on your 50. So if your home was valued at $200,000 and your 50% FEMA is 100, as of 2024, the new FEMA letter is now showing that at 50. It's huge. Yeah. So just want to absorb that in. I heard that today too, and I haven't seen it yet. But, and again, it's all the state of Florida, is my understanding as well, that there's FEMA letters for everybody in the state of Florida.
Well, in speaking with the building official, we know that at one point when it was brought up, the question was posed as far as if people were getting a private appraisal, you know, as far as to look at their that determination, that that was, you know, the question was, will that ever be captured or carried over into the property appraisal? And the answer was no at that time. When we saw today, and you're spot on, it was about 50%. They have it bolded, you know, that it's kind of, if you're looking at to do permitted work based on, you know, the events that happened, use the 2024, you know, to reflect back to that. But it's, I believe, going to cause a lot of confusion, and we have a lot of concern about that. The only, I think, good thing that we have going for us here in our community is that when you link to that permit, it takes you back to St. Pete Beach. And when going back to the 50% and all of that, we use that letter, we use that as a guide, and we collect the appraisal, but we're handling all of that at the municipal level. So that's, I think, the only thing that we may have at least somewhat more of that, you know, at least to be able to strategize and address that, because it's going to cause so much confusion. And I think, though, as long as we know that those valuations start and end with us, and then we also, you know, I think that might, and then, of course, we're going to have, I mean, it was like these letters just kind of showed up on the, you know, and so I think we're going to have continued conversations and how that looks and be able to communicate that appropriately to the community, because there were many people that never even knew the letter was on. Even
it was hard enough the first time.
Right.
And then you have, again, any open permits, and then going into an event in 2025. I mean, there's a lot that could happen with that. So I just don't know if people are aware, and I just want to make everybody aware for that as well, that there's a new FEMA letter out there, and it's half of what you thought your value was before. Sad to say.
Is that for homes that were reassessed because they were damaged and the value was reduced based on the new damage, or what is that? Where is that coming from?
Again, I just saw it today for the first time, but my understanding, the way that you read it, is that it's the 2025 assessment. So they're basing it on the condition of the home as they see it.
So if there was no damage to your home, then you will not receive a new assessed FEMA letter?
I believe they're sending out new letters to everybody.
Okay, so maybe is that going to reduce the tax basis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is that. Okay, and then the last question is, so even if your new assessed values, let's say it's at $50,000 now, you can still get an appraisal for fair market value. at pre-storm condition, correct?
Yes. And that's exactly what I asked the building official, what we would do in an instance for someone that maybe hadn't started anything yet,
Right.
that they were going to go based on the old letter, new appraisal. Yes, we have that as an option.
Adds a lot of confusion to what's already was confusing to begin with. So,
Commissioner Maldonado.
So I just trying to speculate here and think then, what is the incentive for people to reply to the notification from the FEMA compliance letter that's been sent out? What if they don't reply and say, I'm not replying? How is that going to impact that now, knowing that their properties could be looked at differently?
So we still, with we'll call it the enforcement phase, if you will. That's the phase that we haven't really entered into really yet. And so some of the things that we've discussed as far as what we've looked at is, there's a lot of assumptions that can be made. So there's kind of two things. There's the reactive, someone calling in. I know that, the house next door, no one's been back, it's vacant, it's uninhabitable, and it's, in the pool and blah, blah. That's something that we can respond to through code enforcement. Where it's going to be a little bit more tricky is for, from maybe the exterior, things look fine, yet we know that there was extensive, or we think we know based on the data that we have, that there was extensive damage and we know no permit has been pulled. At that point, some of the things that we're talking to and working with legal on and the team is, okay, how does that look? Because again, it's not really a stop work order. You haven't maybe necessarily started work. So there's some kind of options that we're considering as far as just the way that our code is written. It does give a lot of flexibility as it pertains to public safety and just well-being. And so that can be anything from that you can make the assumption that there's mold growing, and that can be considered, an unsafe, structure, if you will. And then we would need to tag the property and then start the enforcement process. But we really want to, again, our goal is just compliance, so we've been really trying to just first try this and do this next round of letters with more specific information, thinking that it might get people's attention, maybe if it didn't the last time, kind of saying, because it was really kind of broad, the first letter, kind of a try to catch all, but this is showing that, okay, this is what we know, and I mean, even if it gets us another couple hundred, then it'll kind of, then it'll give us a little bit less, because it's those last properties that we know are going to, from an enforcement standpoint, are going to be a little bit trickier.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. City Clerk, perchance, do we have any general audience comments?
Yes.
Okay.
Elizabeth Ventura.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Elizabeth Ventura, 523 72nd Avenue,
I'm sorry, which city is that?
St. Pete Beach.
Thank you.
First, I would like to ask for some clarification about the proposed noise ordinance, which I'm sure everybody is mostly here for. I don't fully understand it, and as somebody who's a resident and a hospitality worker, we would love some clarification on that. And then secondly, based on what I've heard, I would like to give a little bit of background as both, again, a resident and a hospitality worker, and what that would mean for me personally and professionally. I live a block away from Toasted Monkey, and I was at Woody's for last call the afternoon of Helene. We literally helped them close their storm shutters. This past year has not been good. Every time I look out of my second-story porch, the flashbacks of watching the water level rise to the windowsill of my neighbor's apartments brings me back to that night as we took shelter in my studio in disbelief. I'll never forget the looks on my neighbors' faces as they started to realize they were about to lose everything. Then a couple of months ago, I opened my windows and heard live music flowing in from Toasted Monkey. I started welling up because it felt like home for the first time in a long time. This isn't bass thumping techno, it's Third Eye Blind and Pearl Jam. As an added layer, I also work in hospitality as a restaurant manager. Although I currently work in Reddington Beach, I have previously worked at 2 different hotels on St. Pete Beach. In my time working on the beaches, I have met some of the most amazing hospitality workers who love what they do. if what the proposed or change to the noise ordinance is out there is going to happen, this will definitely affect these hospitality workers to make a decent living. Wait staff will lose out on tips as vacationers start moving to Treasure Island and Clearwater Beach to get their live music fix. I truly hope an agreement can be made because I love this place I've called home for the last 3 years. These workers were out of jobs for months and were still first in line to volunteer in the aftermath. As a petition that I have signed will show you, there are a lot of people out there that feel the same way as me. Thank you.
It was horrible, wasn't it? So before we keep going, because I assume there may be a few of you along the same vein here, I would like to ask, if you're not opposed to this, Commissioner Marriott, you were here at the last commission meeting and at the town hall. Just kind of help everyone understand how the commission is trying to shut down live music.
I'm sorry, what's that? What are you,
Okay.
explain, what are you asking me?
Well, she's very concerned that we're going to shut down live music. Is that an accurate assessment? Yes. Okay. How many of you here are concerned we're going to shut down live music?
Too early.
Okay. Okay. Okay, hold on. That's all right. Hold on. So based on the audience here and based on what I've been reading online, it seems that the consensus and the understanding is, and from what the media is saying, is that we're going to shut down live music at 7 p.m. And so you were here, the rest of you were all here. I think we should explain to everyone how that is, how we're going to shut it down at 7 p.m., or if that's not accurate.
So if you're asking me what my understanding from our last commission meeting was, my understanding from the last commission meeting was that staff presented us with a direction they were considering going before they present to us another stab at a revised noise ordinance. And in that staff presentation, it included the words something like 5 decibels over background noise from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. My belief is that many people heard that 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., including lots of news outlets, and assumed that we were considering or voting on or passing an ordinance that included that language, which we have not yet been presented with.
Did we even discuss shutting down music at 7 p.m.?
No, I believe in that last commission meeting after the staff presentation, my comment was 7 p.m. seems a little early, but we'll see what everybody has to say about it. And that was the extent of the discussion at that time.
Okay. Any other commissioners, do you remember twice we actually asked about live music? Do you remember what the conversation was?
Yeah, that we was allowed.
I'll make it easy. I brought transcripts from the meeting where we discussed the noise ordinance. We'll pass one down to the city clerk as well.
Was this all a figment of our imagination then?
Well, we want to make sure we're all on the same page. Okay.
This is fake.
So,
Order, please.
you will not speak out of turn. When it's your turn, you can come up and speak. Okay, so on page 2, the bottom, second paragraph from the bottom where Brandon Berry speaks, we had a question about conditional use permits. A conditional use permit is if you want to have amplified music, live music, anything like that, you have to come before the commission, you have to get a vote, and then once you have that conditional use permit, you can then have live music at your establishment, play amplified music. So, Brandon Berry said, it exempts those uses that are subject to a conditional use permit, which includes live music. So even if the proposed ordinance, which right now we don't have a proposed ordinance, we had a conversation about a proposed ordinance based on the meeting that we had in January with all of you here, based on the open house
meeting that we had in April. Based on those feedback that we received from the community, the staff came back with a new proposal in cooperation with the city's attorney's office. So one of those things says what the city staff said. So if somebody wouldn't mind reading the bottom paragraph, Mayor Petrilla, I asked the question. Would you mind stating what I asked? Commissioner Maldonado, maybe? Page 2, last paragraph.
There also, there's certain events that don't require CUPs. So for example, if they're having a block party, right, or if we're doing the summer concert series here in Huron Park, so would there be exemptions for that? I could see a situation where the neighbors across, Boca Ciega Bay, it's going to be more than 5 decibels from where they are and start at 7, right? And so there would be a special. So as part of the issuing permit for the event, it would also have an exemption to this particular item.
To which Brandon Berry, our city planner, responded yes, and we're writing those into the conditional use permits. So again, if there's a live music event, if there's a special event at Huron Park, if the proposed ordinance as it was written were to be presented, they would not be impacted. How many of you here are from Corey Avenue businesses? Okay, so I specifically asked about you as well, right? So I'm saying so I'm reading this transcript here, right? I'm saying if some of these would not be a CUP, so if it's not a conditional use permit, but rather the Corey Avenue Business Association decided that they wanted to have a block party or a special event like you do at the Sunday market where there is live music. The last time I was here, there was actually 2 different sets of live music. It was awesome, right? So for those street permit closures, live music, right, would there be a permit required for those? Would this ordinance impact them? And then the same thing from the city planner. If you had a permit like that for live music, regardless of 7 p.m., right, it says that would be written into the permit so that you would be exempt from that. Okay? So I just want to make sure that you will be called in the order that you were presented, right? I just want to make sure that you understand what the conversation was at the last meeting, because what we had was a conversation based on the feedback that we've received from everybody in the community at the previous 2 meetings on the noise ordinance, and this is why we had a presentation a 3rd time rather than bringing an ordinance to you, so that we can have a conversation about it again. And so for that, I thank you for all being here to help us further this conversation. So, do we have any other audience comments?
Staff said we were the Wild West. Really?
Ma'am,
It's not national.
ma'am, it is not your turn to speak.
You have to fill out a card.
Yes. No, sir. You will be called in the order that the cards were received.
Deborah Ritterson.
If you would like to speak, as I stated in the very beginning, there are yellow cards in the back. If you put down your name and then which subject you would like to speak on, and then you will be called in the order that the cards were received. You will have 3 minutes uninterrupted to speak on whichever subject you would like. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Deborah Lynn Ritterson, 7500 Boca Ciega Drive, St. Pete Beach, Florida. Good evening, Commissioners, Madam Vice Mayor, and Mayor Petrilla. As a full-time St. Pete Beach resident, I understand the noise ordinance can be a prickly subject to discuss, so I truly thank you for allowing us to speak. As it stands now, my hope is that it remains as is and that no changes are made to it. Music that follows the rules is a big part of the St. Pete Beach lifestyle and landscape. While unfortunately there are some bad apples that don't adhere to the noise rules, hopefully they can be addressed on a personal level, one-on-one, and those establishments that follows the correct times can carry on as they have in the past. Okay. I submit a change.org petition I began on August 7th, 2025, that as of printing has 5,768 signatures. I just hope that we keep it as is. We've been through so much with the 2 hurricanes, and I've had so many musicians, restaurant owners, bar owners reach out to me, and they just really want to keep things the way they are, and let's get through hurricane season and take care of the bad apples that are hurting the ones that are following the rules. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you, Deborah. Again, I will remind you, no cheering, no clapping, no booing. If you want, we can clear the room and then let you in one at a time to speak. It's up to you. I would prefer for everyone to be here and hear what you all have to say. So again, I'm going to ask you to respect each other and let the speaker speak, and so we can get through everybody. City Clerk.
Seth Campbell. Seth Campbell.
Excuse me.
Come up here.
If you'll please step forward to the podium. If you'll state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, it's Seth Campbell. Address is 460 15th Avenue North, St. Pete. I did bring some handouts for you, if that's all right to hand out real quick.
As long as you have 7. It's as long as you have 7.
I brought some for the whole set.
Thank you.
I'll comment on these here in a bit.
Seth, your clock is running, so.
Thanks,
We
Sam.
can put it on,
Thank you.
put it on the overhead.
Thank you.
Maybe I should have done a paper airplane. I also brought a decibel reader to show people what we're talking about. Some people don't know what that is. All right, I'm hurrying. So if you pay attention while I talk, and keep in mind, this is just me talking. This is me speaking away from a speaker, right? So this is normal conversation, just me talking out loud. It goes about 90.
Excuse me, Seth, if you do not speak into the microphone, then we can.
So anyway, as I demonstrated, it goes about 70 to 90 just from me talking right here. So the closer you are to the decibel readers, the louder it's going to be. So I wanted to go over this, and just keep that in mind while I'm talking. But the estimated estimated annual sales tax revenue loss if the music is banned after 7 p.m. I know it's not banned, but you know, total food and drink sales in Pinellas County is about $3.6 billion. So that'd be lost revenue for a lot of businesses here. I know that's not promising for investors, business owners. Estimated revenue loss due to a ban on music after 7 p.m. is 9.4%, and that's based on regional and national level. It's actually going to wildly differ depending on the business and if they're based around live music. On St. Pete Beach, there were some numbers that were 55%, some range between 30 to 77. Just for a very conservative number, I put 9.4. Sales tax loss of Pinellas County. I know last time I spoke here, Pinellas County, at St. Pete Beach, you said most of the tax revenue isn't seen by the city, but I was wondering if the county is impacted by that at all, by lost tax revenue, if that's going to be a problem since sheriffs are here enforcing the sound ordinance and things like that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Seth. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. Maybe if you can come back, we can continue this. I really would prefer to continue this uninterrupted. Thank you.
back in session, and before we continue, commissioners, I have I want to put something to you. And I would propose that we allow the democratic process to kind of help us determine how we go forward tonight. I would like to put it to the audience by a vote of raise of hands. If they prefer to continue with the audience comments as it is right now under the current rules, which is to say, you come, you speak, you remain uninterrupted, no clapping, no cheering, no jeering. Or, because we do have to complete all the city business that we have on the agenda for today as well, or if they prefer, we can move the audience comments to the end. We've got only a handful of items left to discuss tonight, and we will adopt a more relaxed stance to allow you some expression. So, for those of you who, again, commissioners, are you all in favor with this proposal?
Take a vote first?
For them to allow us to tell us. They're either going to proceed as before, but remain quiet so we don't have to keep interrupting, or if they want to, have a little bit of clapping or a little bit of expression, then we can move the audience comments to the end, and we will have a more relaxed decorum.
Mayor, would you like me to read the current rules of decorum so that everybody knows? These are the rules of decorum adopted by Resolution 2022-13. It shall be prohibited for any person to disturb or interrupt any meeting or otherwise fail to comport with these rules and procedures. The use of obscene or profane language, physical violence or the threat thereof, or other loud and boisterous behavior is prohibited. Clapping, applauding, heckling, and verbal outbursts in support or opposition to a speaker or his or her remarks is prohibited. The presiding chair shall be responsible for ensuring decorum at the meeting. A failure to comply with any lawful of this decision of the chair shall constitute a disturbance, and that person shall be declared out of order, and he or she shall relinquish the podium immediately. If the person does not do so, he is subject to removal and trespass from the commission chambers and the location of the said meeting.
So my proposal is that we let them decide if they want to continue under the current rules. You will all abide by them. Or if we want to move the audience comments to the last item for tonight, and we can take a more relaxed approach.
Could I just add so that the audience understands that if you move it to the end if you're going to take a vote, we can't guarantee what time that will be. Okay, so, and then I'm just going to be honest because, I don't think this is a heavy agenda, but we've thought that before, so just keep that in mind.
So commissioners, are you okay with giving that opportunity?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. So just by a raise of hands, how many of you prefer option one? Could we please, option one is we continue under the current rules of decorum. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's really basically everybody. Who's here for number two? Okay, so just so that we make sure you all agree to abide by the rules of decorum that the city attorney just read. You also heard the consequences. I do not want to have to do that. Please don't make me do that. I really would prefer for all of you to have to say your piece. I love that you're all here. I want to hear from every single one of you. I think you should all respect each other and let everybody speak and have their 3 minutes of uninterrupted. So, thank you. City Clerk, next person, please.
Jeffrey Caputo.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Jeff Caputo, 4604 49th Street, North Kansas City. Good evening. I'm reaching out to attorneys in news stations with a critical story about noise ordinance 2025-05, if that's still the number. It threatens to silence or severely limit, not ban, evening live music. It would gut our tourism economy. My public records request exposed the city's delayed, incomplete response at odds with Florida's transparency laws. The full packet at archive.org reveals no evidence and a deficient business impact estimate. Attorneys challenging this ordinance or media seeking a transparency scoop contact me at floridarepublic@gmail.com. This ordinance claims to protect residents, but risks our economy and lacks transparency. Limiting, I didn't say ban, limiting evening live music in any way could cut restaurant and bar revenues up to 25%. This is with that 7 p.m. standard. On a sliding scale, maybe there could be in the business impact estimate some type of sensitivity analysis of some sort, perhaps. But with the 7 p.m. standard, crunching the numbers, it could limit revenues up to 25%, $20 million annually in St. Pete Beach, costing $1.4 million in local taxes, $13 million countywide. In March, peak season losses could hit $6 million. Jobs for servers, bartenders, and musicians are at risk, while tourists may flock to Gulfport, leaving us poorer. The ordinance claims noise causes health issues and lowers property values. My records request found 0 county health data. That's the ICD codes with health issues that are normally associated with noise pollution. No record from the Florida Department of Health on that. No analysis, a hedonic analysis tying noise to property declines, as in the preamble, the whereas, this and that. That's why we have to pass this ordinance. Nothing in there. These baseless claims don't justify the ordinance. The Florida statutory required business impact estimate is vague, citing only 39 bars, ignoring restaurants and hotels, with no cost or risk analysis, failing that good faith standard that's actually written in the statute, 166.041, subparagraph 4, I believe. My February records request got a delayed 21 business day response, which is at odds with the promptness rules in public records. The city only replied after my fault and default notices, shows bad faith. They didn't provide a tally sheet for missing records, further breaching statutory good faith standards. My April mediation request to the city and Attorney General's office went unanswered, dodging accountability. So this ordinance threatens St. Pete Beach's vibrancy and cultural heritage without evidence. I urge residents, businesses, and media to demand missing records, a proper business impact estimate, and a rethink of this ordinance at the next hearing. I'd love to see some outreach to some businesses. I'd like to see some more math in that business impact estimate. I'd like to see some crunching. It'd be great to see some numbers, not words.
Thank you.
Vincent Tormenia.
If you please state your name and address for the record. Somebody mentioned that y'all can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Vincent Armenian, 3514 Casablanca Avenue. I'm here to find out, and this addresses the city attorney and the rest of you, if you are in that HB 180 lawsuit, and the lawsuit also for that Pasco County is going against Pinellas County for the water. What's all the stuff that's in the water? That's what I came to ask, if you guys are in those, or thinking about going into those lawsuits.
Mr. Termania, we have not had a discussion about this item, but if you would like to send, just send me an email to the city,
Okay.
and then I will provide any follow-up and additional details on it. I know that there's several cities involved in that lawsuit. I know we briefly broached the subject, just to say that it is happening at the last commission meeting, but the commission has not taken any action on that yet.
Okay, and what about the water one, too? You
No,
haven't
sir.
heard about that one?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll send it to you, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out.
Mia Hartley.
If you please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Mia Hartley. I reside at 680 71st Avenue, St. Pete Beach, Florida. First things first, I want to address something that I think there's confusion surrounding. I know that I've been referencing the meeting from last month and the PowerPoint that was presented at that time that talked about this 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. time frame. In speaking with some of the commissioners, it sounds like that time frame wasn't truly considered by the commission at all. It was just a number pulled out of thin air by city staff. And I think for anyone who was here earlier in the year, we remember how frustrating it is when numbers are just being thrown into these PowerPoints or into the meetings or the first readings of these ordinances, because it feels like, not to overuse this term, I know millennials and Gen Zers know it, but I feel a little gaslit here because I show up with this anger and then I'm told, or this frustration rather, but then I'm told that I'm misunderstanding, there's miscommunication. But I'm reading black and white And I'm hearing city staff saying that they're pulling numbers out of thin air. There's a reason to be upset. So when we come in here and we're talked down, the first audience comment happens, and then we have a 5-minute lecture about how we don't understand. I'm very frustrated. Don't put language in anything that's not being seriously considered. That blows my mind. So to look at all of us and think that we're being outrageous, and I think it comes from a feminine place too, of like being told as a woman because you get upset about something that you need to go take your Midol. It might be a little bit of that too for me. I feel so gaslit by this commission and the city staff in throwing numbers that you haven't seriously considered. And I understand it didn't get to you guys yet, I get it, but it was presented to you. So it's serious. It blows my mind. I've lived here my whole life. I love St. Pete Beach. I'm a musician on the beach. I see issues all the time with this city that need to be considered. 71st Avenue, I couldn't even drive down the street for 4 weeks because there was a massive bubble in the road, asphalt just mounting, and every day I thought, when is this water line finally gonna burst and this road's just gonna explode? That matters. I couldn't drive to my boyfriend's house last week because my road was so flooded, it was a river, I couldn't get anywhere. The sewer drains need to be cleaned. What are we doing talking about this noise ordinance and throwing numbers that haven't been thought about? It blows my mind. I didn't script any of this. I'm just kind of over it. So I just wanted to speak my piece about that. Stop throwing numbers out there if you don't mean it.
Mia, I'd like to ask you a question if you're not opposed to answering it. Okay, so the last time in January when everybody was here, there was discontent about us bringing something for a first reading without a community discussion. Then we had community discussion. So Sunshine Law prohibits all of us from talking about anything that might come before the commission. So the only time we can have any discussions with us or with the staff is in a commission meeting. So we had a conversation about the noise ordinance and what the staff proposed at the last meeting, pending community input, which we are receiving. So just, look, you all came last time. We made adjustments. We had a town hall. We made more adjustments. So I'm asking you, from your standpoint, how would you like us to present this? Because we can't talk about it via email, or the city manager can't like tell me, and then by the way, I'm also going to tell this commission. No, it has to be in the public forum. Everything has to be transparent in front of everybody else. So how should we have these conversations?
Right. I think I appreciate that. I understand that. In the decorum of transparency, I was at all these meetings. I was at this city town hall meeting. I thought we were kind of coming to some sort of reasonable compromise. 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shocked me. That did not reflect in any way what I thought was discussed at the meetings, which I speak for myself only, but I think we should just enforce the old ordinance. I mean, Dunedin does it. Dunedin's a great example. I don't know if anyone's actually called Dunedin yet. I'll do it pro bono. But I think we should call some of these cities. I understand Naples was the town that was presented in the PowerPoint, but we're nothing like Naples. We're like Dunedin, which is just up the road, who dealt with these issues a couple years ago. I understand there's transparency and you guys can't communicate about it, but the fact that that's what our city staff grasped from the city workshop that happened is astounding to me.
Okay, but again, if we're trying to move forward and make better decisions here, right? So how should we have, like, what would have made you happier at the last meeting? How should the staff have presented it to us to be a better presentation?
I think when we talk about numbers, I don't in particular recall any conversations about wanting to have special permits or noise have to lower before sunset at all in the city workshop. So maybe to city staff, I don't know who the particular person is. This isn't a personal attack, but maybe just read your notes a couple more times before presenting these numbers and PowerPoints that then you all get to see for the first time and we get to see for the first time, that don't reflect any of the public comments that were being made in the workshop. So maybe just review the notes a couple more times.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you. Next person.
Larry Levine.
If you please state your name and address for the record.
Larry Levine, 4217 Holland Drive, St. Pete Beach. What I want to say is, we moved here, we started coming here and staying at the Bon Air in the year 2000. We bought here in 208 in Bella Vista, right across the street from the Bon Air. We love St. Pete Beach. But what we love about it is the nightlife, the restaurants. It looks like Gaza right now. My neighborhood, Bella Vista, 60% of the homes are demolished or vacant, or they're getting bulldozed. We're going to lift ours 10 months on the permit. Just throwing that out. But anyway, what I want, all these people here love the music. They love the food. They love St. Pete Beach. They love the entertainment, right?
Yes.
How many people are against?
Excuse me, sir. Larry? Larry, please address the
I just want to ask
commission.
that, okay? Because I wanted to see, you asked. So anyway.
The chair.
All I'm saying is what we have here is we got workers, we got music, we got waiters, we got cooks, we got all this. We don't even have a beach anymore. We're missing the postcard inn. We're missing the beachcomber next to it with Jimmy B's. That's one of the reasons we love it here. The one across from it, we don't even have a grocery store right now. That's gone. The hotel across from that's gone. This place is a disaster. Don't take away our fun. I don't understand it. What's the point? How many people complained? And, you know, is it really the 2 people that are complaining about the 600 books that might have something in it? I mean, is it the same thing here that 2 people complained and now we got, you know, 200 people that are going to lose their jobs? We're going to lose a lot of money, and we're going to lose a lot of fun. And we're not having much fun in this country right now anyway. So let us have some fun. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Christopher Harmon.
So please state your name and address for the record.
Christopher Harmon, 2816 Linthicum Place in Tampa. I'm speaking because, while I'm not a resident, I had the pleasure of working with many businesses here in St. Pete Beach and many entertainers. There's just a lot of concern at the, second what Mia said. It just seems the numbers being thrown out, a lot of terrible impact can happen for us economically, but for the city. So we just want to see a better dialogue. That's really all I want to say. Let's keep going what happened last meeting, because this was real surprise. So really, that's all I want to say. So let's keep the good dialogue going and figure out a solution. So thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.
Justin Rice.
If you please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Justin Rice. I'm not a St. Pete Beach resident. I'm a Safety Harbor resident at 206 Waterview Court. Before the hurricanes, I had the pleasure of playing down here at Bongos every other week. I wanted to tell the commissioners and the mayor to make sure that we get this right the first time. There was a Tampa Bay Times article that I read yesterday called "Quiet Hours Could Soon Get Quieter," and this is not an attack on you, Commissioner, but Commissioner Rom said, I look at it as if the ordinance doesn't work, we can add to it. It's like anything we do up here, we can add more to it, we can take stuff away from it. And that's reasonable, but I think with everything going on, we're still talking about hurricane recovery. If we are gonna do this, this should be done correctly the first time instead of having to go back and fix it, because we won't know the damage if there is some, which I anticipate, until afterwards. Second, I know we've talked about sales tax before. Did you know that 1% of the 7%, so if you spend $1 and you get charged 7 cents on sales tax, that 1 penny stays in Pinellas County? That's why we call it pennies for Pinellas, right? Or penny for Pinellas. So I think that if we reduce the live music, we're going to end up losing sales tax revenue. I can't quantify the exact hit, but in addition to that, the servers are going to be hurting, the musicians are going to be hurting, the venues are going to be hurting after everything we've already been going through. I'd also like to say I've heard the argument that live music reduces property values, but looking at St. Pete Beach's 2023 Certified Annual Financial Report, it looks like the estimated fair market value, not the assessed value, for the properties here have gone up significantly, especially from 2022 to 2023. So I don't quite buy that live music's affecting property values. And finally, I want to just say that it's really important for the culture here. In the early 1970s, my mom moved to St. Pete Beach from rural Ohio and took a big leap of faith. And she was working as a bartender. She was also a nurse, but she was starting out as a bartender. And she met my dad playing at the beach at a place called Skips, a few miles up the road that's been demolished. They didn't talk too much that night, but she kept following him around to his gigs, and they got married. And why is this important? It's because this is more than just about the tax revenue and the effect there. This is about the culture and identity of the beaches, and St. Pete Beach has so much clout that what decisions you guys make are going to be potentially copied by Clearwater Beach, where I perform a lot, Madeira Beach. So keep that in mind, and thank you so much for your time, for the opportunity for us all to speak and give our feedback.
Thank you, Justin.
Amy Lynn Dixon.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Hey everyone, my name is Amy Lynn Dixon, address 8221 12th Way North, St. Pete, 33702. I'm pretty sure if you put the mic up to my heart right now, it would break 55 decibels, so please just give me a little bit of grace. I moved here about 4 years ago to help care for my mother who has dementia. She sometimes doesn't remember who I am, but you know what she does remember? Song lyrics. You know what else she remembers? That I'm a good singer. I don't know the extent to what all of this is about. I'm confused. This is the first meeting like this I've been to. But I want to tell you, if it's about development, I was just in Delray Beach the other day, and nothing against Delray Beach, but I'm really glad I don't live there. And it's not because of the people. It's because the attitude of the people. The attitude of the people here is why I still live here. And the reason that I'm alive, I believe, and myself and my dad included, who's also a musician, is because music is healing. And I know that sometimes it gets loud. After the hurricane, the noise for the repair was loud. And it was at 8 a.m. that they were starting those drills below my apartment on the second floor. And I really hope we don't have to go through that again. I really hope we don't. But we're still here. And that means something. And I haven't been here that long, but I'd like to be here for a little bit longer. And this is really important. If it feels like life or death, it's because for a lot of us it is. So I just want to ask you, even though I don't know much about this process, please be transparent with us. Please have conversations with us. We are reasonable. We want to be here. We want you to be here. It's a really special place. And I just want to drop a couple fun facts that dancing, I'm also a dancer. A lot of people here may know me as a dancer, ballroom dancer, first and foremost. But I'm also a musician, and both of those activities are incredibly important. Some of the most longevity promoting activities. If my mom has dementia and she still remembers the lyrics to Hotel California, that tells you everything you need to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Danny James.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Danny James, 3605 12th Avenue North, St. Pete, Florida. Okay, well, everybody said the same thing I'm going to say. You're going to hear this repeated all over. But I didn't come here because I live here. I don't live on the beach anymore. But I can't tell you how many hundreds of days I've spent on this beach, hundreds of nights. I'm a musician. I've played on this beach since middle of 1980s, 85, 86. I played hundreds, maybe even thousands of shows. Played them with other people. Part of what I saw over all the years, I can't explain the fun, the enjoyment, the love, the camaraderie, the friendships, everything. The best picture I have of my wife and my kids is us at Swigwam, when it was Swigwam, sitting there, and then my kids would come and watch the music. And I remember when the sound ordinances and the things became a problem. It's when the gentrification of everything started. And then you'd have two people, or a few people, a handful of people, miserable with their own lives. So then misery wants company. And then you have these people complaining. Now, back then we came up with a plan. So people they would bring a decibel meter, and they would put the decibel meter either at the edge of the property, or they would bring it to the person where they lived. And if it reached a certain decibel level, well, then it was needed to come down. So the club owner, the bar owner, beach bar owner would come up to the band and turn the music down. There's a happy medium, but taking away that evening enjoyment that a lot of us love and a lot of us live for, it was just completely the wrong thing to do. I don't know, again, like a lot of these people have said, what this process is and who decides that. But it should be in the hands of the people that enjoy it. And it's not just the people that live on the beach. It's St. Petersburg. It's all of Florida. Man, I played for people that came down with their hockey teams and came over from England every year to the same spots to watch me play and watch other bands play and other performers that I knew over the years. The Hollywood Dave and the Hotheads, you know, the bands that were, these were very popular people. These were people you looked forward to. I mean, I used to see the beach full of people. There would be 300 people on a Sunday to watch my band Sandstorm play at Swigwam. And man, those were just some of the greatest times of my life, and I know a lot of these people from that. Just involve everybody in the conversation.
Thank you, Danny.
That's all I'm going to say. Thanks.
Brett Wilkins.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Brett Wilkins, 13250 Lauderdale, Florida, 33778. It's a hot August day, forgive for my hair. That's a hard one to follow up, but first of all, I want to thank all of you for giving us an opportunity to speak, and I want to thank everyone sitting behind me, because we are part, as a musician, I'm part of an amazing community, family, people that have looked out for me and I look out for them. And I wish I could speak numbers and profit and all that, and I can't. But I come from the hospitality industry, and the one thing I can tell you, in my experience with this, is I've experienced nothing but love and appreciation. There's not one single person sitting behind me that wishes any ill will on me, nor me them, because we're here for each other, just like for you guys as well. And for your hockey, I've been there. I played to a group of 50 of German hockey fans that came to Florida, and they requested me as well. So that's a funny thing that happened. So I appreciate you, brother, on that one. And then it was even years before, I got the honor of playing Postcard Inn in St. Pete Beach. And I was just starting out. I was scared, and this place gave me an opportunity to give me the courage to quit my job, see beautiful sunsets. And one night I got to gather around a whole bunch of people from all over the world to sing Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. And it's amazing that I'm not a well-traveled person, but I still get to see the world through here. And you guys and your predecessors allowed that. And these are great people behind us. We're all just doing something to Lee's point, keep us letting have us fun. I know you guys got to make decisions, but this will be the wrong one. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Brett.
John Kurzman.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Great. So, John Kurzman, St. Pete Beach, be underway. So, at the first reading, there was, talk that concerned a lot of people. And it was all day and night, plainly auto prohibition. So what surprised people is this is AI summarizing the last meeting. It said that they moved to 5 decibels between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. And it said the plainly audible standard, and if the difference is more than 5 decibels, it's a problem anytime, even if the overall noise level is below the current limit. So it's a lot of strictness. So I sort of feel like this wasn't really discussed fully by the commission. I watched that video, and it was more like, staff just presented something. It was supposed to be an improvement. Instead, this was like a scary unimprovement when you're concerned about this freedom to have some sounds. But let's look. This is the actual slide. And so it just is a scary slide. It says, if the decibels exceed 5 decibels from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., in addition to the other dBA limitations. By the way, dBA means they're not paying attention to frequency. But let's look. 55 and 65 are the 2 decibels. 55 is between an urban residence and a conversation. 65 is between a conversation and classroom chatter. That's what you're saying, or that's what somebody's saying they want to change the city to, even at 7 p.m. at night. And if 2 sound sources are combined, you're not doing the math right. Logarithm math does not work like you're presented. You can't just subtract, because 80 decibels and 85 decibels equals 86 decibels. So if you have 86 decibels and you take away the 80 decibel background noise, you're left with 85. So it's not the math that you guys were presented with. And what you need to do is you need to convert it into pascals, which is the sound pressure. That's how you do the math. And I have some slides you can look at later about that. You want to look at DBC. DBC is frequency oriented. That's what a lot of cities do, and that starts saying these are the offensive sounds, these are the sounds you can hear as a human. Sometimes that's important. Now, the other funny thing is, I looked at what is the rule in hospitals. Hospitals are 66 decibels during the day typically, and they're even pretty high at night. Here's a hospital that said, we're going to have quiet time between 12 and 3 a.m. in a hospital. Do we need to move the toasted monkey into a hospital? And then nursing homes. The rules in nursing homes, a typical nursing home goes between 52 and 59, and is the averages, and it's from 24 to 89.6 in a nursing home.
Thank you, John.
Anyway, so I have a map and a summary, and I'll send you the slides.
Thank you, John.
Angelique Stamp.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Absolutely. Angelique Stamp, 6273 51st Terrace North. This is my first time being at these meetings. It's difficult. I am a previous St. Pete owner, sold in 2023, bought in 1997, and in 2001, I, until currently, have been a bartender at Jimmy B's. Love the beach, love the energy. This is very sad what's happening out here. This is not just about the sound, it's about we need something to keep our beach going. And it gives us no hope. I don't want to talk about decimals and numbers, and I understand I'm not a taxpayer anymore. I don't vote for either one of you. I don't have a say. I know that that's really what matters. This is just me saying what I feel. This beach is provided for me for the past 24 years. I raised my kids, lived with my husband on this beach, and this is depressing to see the energy gone and zapped from our community. And to start up and hope that we get things opened up and debris cleaned up as quickly as we can. I feel like there's all these obstacles that are in the way. Like, the years I've been there, I'm not a bad apple. I'm really not, okay? I've never seen any problems. It's not an unsafe beach. It's never been. So I don't know what's happening, and I know it's politics. I'm sorry. But we're dying. The energy is dying. It's not just, it's look around. So when you put obstacles like we have to impose this and we have to impose this, when I was an owner, we did have storage back. We still have backups in a lot of these areas. Because though I don't live on this beach anymore, I still come every day. So I'm sorry if it comes off aggressive. There's a lot of passion that the group of people that have come up, it has been my livelihood. And it has greatly impacted, not just me, it's not about me, people that I've worked with in our community. So just consider what things you're gonna vote on and what's important, because we wanna have people come back. I want the people that I've known for 24 years to come back and say, make me a pina colada, okay? And that's not gonna happen. There's nothing here for them. What are they gonna do? Look at us trying to struggle 11 months after? I wouldn't wanna come here. What, to see the market for 3-4 hours because it might get too loud and then they're done? And what else is there to do? Nothing. And I don't want that to happen. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Angelique. And I think we've mentioned Jimmy B's almost every time we've had a conversation about the noise ordinance as being one of the good neighbors, good apples, and an example for some of the other businesses. So thank you.
Thank you.
City Clerk.
Robert Kerr.
Good evening, Robert Kerr.
If you wait till you get to the microphone so we can have you.
Robert Kerr, 310 78th Avenue, St. Pete Beach. I've been on this beach a long time. I believe, these ordinances, to be honest, we don't really know what you guys are discussing. So we're kind of just throwing off the top of our head. You said you couldn't speak to us about it, which is understandable. But I think this is the middle meeting where we're at, where we're coming back, where we would like to know a little more, where you guys really stand. Because then when you bring those ideas to us, now we can throw you our outside-the-box ideas. I used to work for bongos. I spent $35,000 building a wall and my speakers to face the beach because I had a guy that complained all the time. And I had our old mayor that showed up all the time, and I used to bring my decibel meter out. So, how many places do we have live music here? There's not even that many. So it should be like an individual basis of who's complaining, how can we make it better? Our culture here, what about the sober people who don't go out just to drink, that really do go out to enjoy the food and enjoy the entertainment? It's not just the businesses, everybody's like, the business can lose money. No, it's the server, the bartender, the barback, the plumber, the AC guy. It's so much more than just a couple people that we're talking about. So I get it, we do have complaints, but it's literally on an individual business basis of how we can make this sound better. I was never breaking an ordinance a single time I was there. I did it out of the compliance that I wanted to take care of my neighbors. And I really think that those ideas of where the complaints are coming from or where it's going down, how can we fix those areas? What do we have? 5 places that do live music after 7? That's it, on the whole entire beach. Why can't we figure out where the complaints are coming from and how we can help those people out individually on a basis per the business, instead of just making one ordinance for everybody? Because then, what is it? Are you really worried about the neighbor that's having a cookout? Or are we really talking about the businesses, what we're really complaining about here today? That's all I really had to say.
Thanks, Robert.
Appreciate your guys' time. But I really believe, as me being here, I live in an apartment complex. I'm the only sole survivor. I live there by myself in this huge place because nobody lasted the hurricane. I got one neighbor next door. I barely have anybody on my street. The one thing I really enjoy doing, going to listen to some live music. These are my friends. These are my family. I've been hiring a lot of them for many years. This means a lot to us.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you for your time.
Mark St. Clair.
If you please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Mark St. Clair. My address is 7050 Sunset Drive in South Pasadena. I have been a resident of Florida since 1992. I moved here from Ohio with my beautiful wife, who has gone to be with God at this point in time in 2012. We lived on St. Pete Beach for quite some time. My wife worked for several of the hotels here as a bartender and everything like that. I was a musician back in the days. I didn't play music for 40 years, and here just recently I started playing with some people again and really enjoy what I'm doing. But I've sat here and listened tonight about all kinds of different problems about trying to get permits and trying to put the beach back together. I see Clearwater Beach, because it's a bigger tourist attraction, apparently was able to get the funds to do whatever it needed to do. It looks like Treasure Island and St. Pete Beach are lagging a little bit behind in that. With that being said, you would think that you are elected officials of St. Petersburg Beach, and I would believe that it would be your duty to serve your constituents. And by stifling business from being done, by putting an ordinance to stop music at, say, 7 p.m. because of a certain decibel level, the gentleman that was up here before earlier, if you go 5 decibels over what he was talking about, you couldn't even play an acoustic guitar. You're only allowing for like conversation. You know, I enjoy what I do, and I do sometimes what I do, I don't get paid for all. I played a show down at the American Legion here on St. Pete Beach not too long ago, blaring heat out in the parking lot, doing a benefit to help rebuild the American Legion that was in Treasure Island that got destroyed by the storms. I had a heat stroke, went off stage during our break, got a frozen Coke, redid myself, went back out, did our second set, tore down everything just because I love what I did and didn't get paid for any of that. And it wasn't about that. It was about the feeling of community. Like these people have all said, you're not only talking about businesses that are going to suffer because people will leave these establishments when the music stops at 7 p.m. Or if you had bands that were in there playing, would continue it and would continue the revenues for the businesses. You're stifling businesses, and like I said, you are here to serve your constituents who have put you into office here. It seems like you're doing the exact opposite. Mr. Mayor, I had asked you to go back and read the question that you had asked at one of the things where you said if we were having a special event or music in the park or a live music event, it would be okay. Well, isn't any time that live music being played is not a live music event? It seems to me, forgive me for saying so, that you have made an oxymoron of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dylan Witkowski.
If you please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Dylan Witkowski. My address is 11522 60th Terrace, and that's in Seminole, Florida. And I have a few quick points to make. One is you keep asking in the dialogue that we've been having since the first meeting what could be done better. And like has already been said, based on the very transparent transcripts of these meetings, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. was never discussed. In fact, every speaker that's been able to attend these meetings, including residents, have voiced support for the old ordinance. So my advice would be to maybe listen. Also, as the last person pointed out, it seems like you're not fully serving your own community that doesn't just include residents. As Commissioner Marriott pointed out in the first meeting, it's a lot more than that. And so if you're really gonna kowtow to 2 or 3 people who, I know it's not mandatory, but they never seem to show up. And so if you're gonna kowtow to those people, that's not serving your community at all. I'm a man of principle, and so when you talk about the decorum and you say no clapping at all, and then you start your own meeting by breaking a rule 3 times. Now, don't get me wrong, I have first responders in my family, I have educators in my family. I will clap for them. You say clapping's allowed, I'll be the first person to clap. You start your own meeting breaking your own rules, then you have all these breaks to punish us. Dude, it stinks of hypocrisy in here. Like, that's hypocrisy 101. You're gonna set a precedent that you guys can clap when you want to, but I don't like it when you guys clap. So again, be a man of principle, all of you, men and women, and listen to everyone of the community who, again, the response is pretty overwhelmingly against. everything you guys are proposing with this, especially with everything going on in the community. So many residents, the very first time, they're like, why are we even talking about this? I agree. And then your proposal is to, while people are already recovering, shoot yourself in the foot and hurt businesses. And then lastly, you keep moving the goalposts. Now you're talking about having special permits for special events. Is that annually, per business, every day? And who gets to decide that? All of you get to decide everybody's livelihood? That doesn't sound very democratic to me.
Thank you, Dylan.
Jeffrey Bonnell.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Bonnell. I live at 440 80th Way here in St. Pete Beach. I'm on the clock, so man, it's hard to follow up all of this. I recently sat with my District 1 rep, Karen, who I think is an exemplary leader of the community, as I hope all of you have been and continue to be. We make mistakes. We've recovered. We'll continue to recover from the storm. I think there are a lot more valuable things we could be spending our time on than this, but since it's been forced, here's my take. We moved here in '06, my wife and I. My wife loves Halloween. We have had an annual Halloween party every year since we moved here in '06. You're about to tell me I cannot have it. You're about to tell me I have to ask your permission. As an honorably discharged United States Marine combat veteran, I fought for the very right not to have to ask your permission to have a party at my house. We've been very respectful of our neighbors, and since 2006, the sheriff shows up every year. It's always a good time. We shut it down, and that's the end of it. I hear a lot of people that I support entirely about the business, the business, the business. Live music, live music, live music. And I support every single person that has spoken here. What we're overlooking is this also affects every single resident in St. Pete Beach. This started over a feud between Red, White, and Buse and a few people in Bino Del Mar. Maybe they have somebody sitting up their personal cell phone. I don't think we should govern the entire community based off the complaints of a handful of people that don't like live music. Let them keep their fight on their end of the beach. That said, I've also been told that every time you guys meet, there's not a lot of opposition to this from you. Well, Mr. Mayor, who I respect tremendously, if this isn't enough opposition for you, I don't know what is. But if this noise ordinance continues to get pushed forward, you're going to get a lot more. We haven't even motivated the residents. It's just businesses. The residents are opposed to this. 90%, and I don't have that statistic I didn't do a study. I'm saying it loosely, but you don't have a lot of support for this, ladies and gentlemen. Not a lot at all. So it's time to let it go. What we have worked just fine, and I don't see a need to waste valuable time and resources on a noise ordinance when we're still trying to recover from a hurricane that devastated this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Kevin Hannigan.
If you please state your name and address for the record when you get to the microphone.
Kevin Hannigan, 651 64th, right here on St. Pete Beach. I've called both of you, and I kind of like surprised that you answer. I kind of feel like a weirdo for calling. So maybe you ask, like, how do we do that? I guess we talk about this. Yeah. I guess we talk about this.
Hasn't even been brought yet.
So I'll say, Mayor, although I may not have, I don't appreciate your approach a whole lot, but you are very smart, and each and every one of you clearly care about us, right? The businesses and the residents. I think you may be going about this wrong. It's again an us versus you, right? But the hurricane, the debris, permitting, signs on the beach that we can't, the dogs and the booze. It just gives the optics that it's us against you, and it's not. I know it's not, but that's how it feels. Or you wouldn't have this. And I don't know that you need to take on this responsibility. Like, I don't know what y'all do for a living, but it's not noise abatement people, right? There's companies that do this, that are consultants. And if a consultant sets the rules, it's no longer you against us. These are the rules. This is the study that was put place. These are repeatable actions that a business and a resident can take. There you go. And it's not you are the bad people and we're the dirt balls, or whatever you want to say, but it's not. There's a way to handle this in a different way. To Jeff's point, we sit out back, and I love Toasted Monkey. We can hear them from our house, and it's kind of cool, loud, kind of cool. Jimmy B's, we can hear them, kind of cool. You know, it's kind of neat that we live in a place that people vacation to. I grew up here. I ran these beaches when I was 13. It took me 30 years to live here again, and it's kind of cool. But my wife and I'm 50, so I'm not going to these places, but we do open a second bottle of wine at the fire pit, and we do play yacht rock. And we might get a little loud, but I do have neighbors that don't care for it, even a little bit. So at 8:30, you know, are we going to be told to go home when the sun's setting and I'm looking at this beautiful, the sunset capital of the world, and I can't listen to yacht rock? That's a thing. And again, it doesn't have to be you against us. There's rules that can be set in place, governed by somebody else. And that's all I got. So, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kevin.
What you all have done, you've been through, was not, it was a lot with the hurricanes, more than anybody would ever sign up for. So there was a lot of mistakes. Obviously, it was not as smooth as we want to, but we're all here, and we all appreciate that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Anthony Colasani.
If you will please state your name and address for the record.
I live at 7115 Coquina Way in St. Pete Beach. I just can't believe that we could get controlled by the most beautiful thing in the world, which is music. Music is phenomenal. It brings people together from all over the world. And I'm not a musician. I wish I was a musician. I was a high school teacher. And the kids that I had in class that were special were always the musicians. They were super children and the artists. And I come from Long Island originally, and Billy Joel, who is a great musician, he almost committed suicide twice. And imagine this world without Billy Joel. I can't imagine it, okay? And secondly, I don't think you want on your shoulders or on your soul people who are going to lose their jobs and not be able to play music and not be able to bring happiness to the world. So it's in the wrong direction. And it's the right way to go is to keep the music flowing. As Shakespeare said, if music be the food of love, play on. And that's what you need to do, because it's not about the money and it's not about the businesses. It's about people who love music. And most of them, they are people who, when you talk to them, they actually, they're the salt of the earth. So you want people to continue. You want that life to continue. That's why people move to Florida, to listen to beautiful music, be outside. I go to the Serrata and I listen to music. I love it. I love Jackson Browne, Brown Eyed Girls. It's a great song and it brings a lot of happiness to me. And they, the people who are playing the music are they love it. You could tell. You could tell that they're really loving what they're doing, and just continue it. And plus, of course, the hurricane and nature and climate change and all of that, we have enough to deal with. But music should continue. That's about it.
Thank you for coming out, sir.
I have no further comment cards.
Thank you, City Clerk. I would like to make an amendment to the agenda. I move that we add a discussion item for noise ordinance as item 7B. I'll entertain a second.
I'll second.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Rosnicki,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. In case you missed it, we're going to proceed with the rest of the agenda, and at the last item, we will be having a discussion on the discussion we just had. So, next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed.
I second.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Can I say one thing first before?
Sure.
Because I don't know if everybody saw the amendment that was given to us on the desk, but I want to make sure that the motion is based off of the amendment that was
We
made.
are removing items E and F.
No, I mean the
I think she's talking about
contract.
the revised final addendum, city manager contract.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
The
yes.
revised finals on your dais.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay, just want to make sure, because it's not in the packet,
Yeah.
so I just want to make sure that that's
Thank you.
noted.
Sure.
So the motion is to move the consent calendar with the, did you want to discuss item B before you move the consent calendar, or do you want to pass
Nobody
everything and
pulled
then?
that item.
Okay, so you're going to pass everything except
D and E?
E and,
Everything except for E and F.
The revised final version of B, and they were going to leave it on the consent.
You
oh,
requested
I'm
that
sorry.
we
Okay, so
pull
that just
E
needs to be stated for the record.
Okay, City Manager, you requested to pull items E and F,
Right, this is item B.
and
Yes.
nobody mentioned item B?
Correct.
And I'm sorry, Mayor, just because at the last, and I know I asked this question, and I was a little confused, that I thought we said that when we got to consent item, if we wanted to pull something, that it didn't have to be done at the beginning of the meeting. So, the consent item.
That is correct. The reason I did it at the beginning is I didn't want you to discuss it at all. So I was removing it from the consent calendar altogether.
Okay.
Sorry for that
But not
confusion.
B. So B is the one that I'm saying that when we motion to approve, it's with the amendment.
Right, it's approved with the amendment that was given to us at the meeting, not in the packet, yes. Absolutely.
Well, not the
That's what I
packet,
understood.
Right,
It's
but this,
Avoid confusion.
yeah, no, we're
It's
good.
important to clarify, but I understood with the document that's been presented, so
Thank you. I just wanted to state it for the public record.
Yes, thank you.
thanks for answering.
Okay.
Thank you.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosnicki,
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we have item 5A, to authorize the execution of a contract in the amount of $393,000, $714.75 with Hennessy Construction Services for Fire Station 22.
Thank you. The fire chief's on his way up here. He'll be presenting this tonight.
Chief Kilpatrick, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you again. All righty. Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. Jim Kilpatrick, your Fire Chief. Tonight, we're going to be giving a presentation on the contract for the construction manager at risk, also known as a CMAR. Why is a CMAR needed? With the complexities of the rebuilding of Station 22, the FEMA compliance, the life safety factors, the systems within that building, the sensitivity of the time frame that we need to have it back in service, it's essential that we have a CMAR involved. What is the CMAR? CMAR helps with the project delivery, works collaboratively with the city and the architect, provides cost estimating, oversees the construction project, is the city's representative at the site, and delivers the project for a guaranteed maximum price, also known as a GMP. CMAR works for us by being involved early, prevents costly late changes, cost control through open book estimates, provides risk reduction through cost, schedule, and performance, and streamlines the process of the design construction. Who holds the risk? As with the name, the construction manager at risk, the CMAR holds the risk in this process. They hold the risk for cost overruns once we lock in the GMP, schedule delays, subcontractor issues, quality problems, those are all held, the risk is held by the CMAR. The key takeaways with the CMAR, the city gains cost certainty, schedule reliability, and quality assurance. That slide's messed up. Our recommendation is Hennessy Construction, based on their proven track record with public safety facilities. I'm sorry. I'm going to go to the hard copy. Based on their proven track record, their extensive CMAR construction experience, their relationships with local contractors, suppliers, that helps reduce mobilization cost, improves responsiveness, and maintains the schedule. They're capable of meeting all the contract requirements that we've set aside, and they're committed to the value engineering that we've also asked them to perform. Backed out of it. So in any regard, the recommendation is for Hennessy Construction for the CMAR project.
Thank you, Chief.
Any questions?
for the chief? Commissioner Reznicki?
I have a couple of questions or comments just to get a better understanding. First, from what I saw in the packet, Hennessy has done work prior here in the city, correct?
That is
I think
correct.
that the library, public
Community
service
center.
building, community center, and so forth. So with all those projects in the past, do you know, and I might be putting you on the spot, you might not have the answer, and that's fine, you can give it to me later. Did they meet that GMP?
I'm not sure if they were brought on board as a CMAR or as the actual contractor. I can't comment. I don't know.
Because, and I asked that because in the presentation you're mentioning that they have history or that they're good, right? That they can meet this GMP because the GMP is not established until we have a number now, but this number could change. And I say this because I want the public to know you're seeing this number, but when they do the pre-construction meeting, that number could change. And then I want to know, based off of their qualifications or history, did they meet that GMP historically? I know you might not be.
I don't know if they've met the GMP in the past. I don't have that knowledge, but I can say that this is a working estimate that we have currently. Once we meet with the contractors and once we establish the GMP, that price, that's locked in, and that is the responsibility of the CMAR moving forward.
So so could it be that it was done differently back then? Like the library, for example. I know there was change orders on the library as an example.
As long as the scope doesn't change, as long as there are no change orders, then the price is locked in. If we change the scope, then that's on us. Okay. But we feel once that GMP is locked in, that we're pretty comfortable with the design at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Robinson?
Just a few questions and comments. This is a $12 million project, correct? or thereabouts?
It started, but now with the design development estimate, it's down to just 9 million.
Yes, I want to reiterate the good news.
Yeah.
Okay, so we went from 12 down to 9. We have a $2 million grant. We have a $3 million grant. And we've received another $1 million grant.
I'm not familiar with the $1 million grant.
We're hoping to get about $1 million from insurance and
I'm
FEMA.
sorry, and it was insurance. I didn't write my notes right.
That's okay.
So 1 million, hopefully insurance. So that's bringing this project down substantially. So I just wanted to bring that up so the public is aware of that. I think that's great news on this. And then my questions are, is that amount for the CMAR budgeted? Was that a budgeted amount into that 12 million or 9 million or?
It is not part of that.
It is
It
not.
is outside of that.
Okay. And was this a single source?
No, this was put out for bid.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. City Clerk, are there any audience comments?
There are no comments.
Thank you. Commissioners, any further questions for the Chief? Is there a motion?
I make the motion to authorize the execution of the contract.
Second?
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruznicki,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
and Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Chief. Next, we have item 5B, authorize the city manager to enter the short-term interim interlocal agreement with Pinellas County for the continued collection of multimodal impact fees.
Thank you, Mayor. City Commission, if I could have the PowerPoint and ask my IT staff to advance it for me, please. All right, next slide. So a little background. The city is currently really just an arrangement of a multimodal impact fee pursuant to Chapter 150 of the Pinellas County Code of Ordinances, and that has been in place for several years, but there was no formal agreement between each individual city and the county. It was just a countywide regional umbrella of ordinances that covered many cities in the county. The city currently has not established its own rational nexus for multimodal impact fees, so that means by state law we cannot just create a structure. We actually have to go through a study, so we've relied on the county who has gone through that process, and it's defensible and allows that collection of fees. Currently, the fees are shared up here, so there's a 50% of the fee plus a 4% admin fee is retained by the city, and then 46% plus interest is paid to the county, and this is submitted each fiscal year after city collects the fees, and then we make that distribution once a year. There was a Florida statute passed this year that provides repercussions for not entering into interlocal agreements prior to October 1st, 2025, but does not prohibit the collection of fees in the absence of one. So I'm going to go through a little detail of why we're proposing to enter into this agreement right now. Next slide, please. So what the statute said was if by October 1st, the city does not execute this interlocal agreement with the county, that two things would happen. The developer's traffic study could then be used as a basis for calculating fees. And because we don't have our own nexus study to defend that. And so that option's already permitted by Pinellas County, but because they have that nexus study, they can defend something other than what the developer may propose. And then if we don't have this, the city would also need to reduce the fee by 10% below the developer's own traffic study justification. This is a brand new statutory requirement, so that's why we've brought this forward. The fees that are charged will automatically be based on apportionment to the county and municipality as justified in that traffic study presented by the developer. Next slide. So this item was presented to the commission a few months back, and there was direction from you to discuss with Forward Pinellas and the county, because Forward Pinellas is the extension special agency that actually manages the multimodal fees and makes sure that they're appropriated correctly, and they also have special districts that they offer grants through. So you directed me to discuss with both of those organizations what we could possibly achieve. And we, along with the city attorney's office, had met with Forward Pinellas and the Pinellas County Attorney's Office, and we proposed a 98%/2% split in impact fees under the, and to a revised interlocal rather than the current 54/46. The county countered the forthcoming amendments to the county ordinance that they, I'm sorry, I'm going to just speak to this. So basically, the county came back and said, we don't have time to change our ordinance in order to support your proposal. And so in working with the city attorney's office, we also know that we don't have time to generate a rational nexus study by October 1st of 2025. So to simply preserve what's here right now and provide us some time to negotiate with the county and Pinellas Forward, which they seemed agreeable to a different type of arrangement, given the reasons we had provided to them, that we are actually recommending tonight that we approve this and then immediately begin discussions with both of those organizations to amend this. Next slide. So to give you a reason why we want to do this, so in the past, prior to October 1st, we have one project in the pipeline. The current impact fees are almost $76,000. So you can see here the city's portion would be about $41,000. Over the last couple of years, we've collected anywhere between $50,000 and $75,000. It's money, but it hasn't been the amount you're going to see that we're entering into with the largest development that this city has experienced in several decades. So potentially after October 1st, Tradewinds Phase 1, we're looking at over $500,000, and the Serrata Resort is approaching over $900,000 in these fees. Next slide. And then if you even go further, so Tradewinds has 4 phases in their development. You can see that we're looking at another approximately $2 million over the next couple of decades. So it's really important. The case we made to Pinellas Forward was, Forward Pinellas was that, this impact is going to be solely on the beach with this development, and we did not want to be in a district where we had to share and compete for the other half of the dollars. And we had created that nexus for them. Next slide. So tonight we are asking you to give me the authority to enter in the current interlocal agreement, which is that 54/46 split, and then to immediately commence discussions with Forward Pinellas and the county to continue on our proposal of the 98/2% split. We also could do a parallel action where we start to do our own nexus study. And I'm researching right now what the cost of that would be, because we do have a termination clause in this interlocal agreement of 30 days. So if we created our own rational nexus study, we would just now collect our own fees and operate just on a local agreement. But absent us having this agreement come October 1st, we would default to the developer being, have more influence over the traffic studies and the reduction, the discount of 10% on the fees. That's the end of my report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Do we have any audience comments?
I have no audience comments.
Thank you. City Manager, what is the process for conducting our own study, please?
So there are consultants. We would want to hire someone who has done this before, and it would take us. We would have a bidding process just as part of our purchasing procedure. So it could take us 60 to 90 days to complete this type of study.
And do we have a rough idea of a cost? Would it?
I'm going to say. I think it's probably going to run around $25,000.
Okay. So I think there's, one additional item of nuance that needs to be kind of mentioned with that state law is that before this, the county could just, we did not have to have it in a local agreement, and they could just take what they decided they wanted to take. The new state law requires that if they want to take any amount, so it's not us, it's any city, if you have multimodal impact fees, those fees now by state law have to be spent in the district, not the city, where they were removed from. We're in Treasure Island, St. Pete Beach, Tierra Verde, right? So in this case, that money would have to be spent in these 3 cities, well, 2 cities and an incorporated county. The law requires that if Pinellas wants to continue to take or receive any part of this, we have to have a local agreement with them, and that allows them to take, in this case, 46% and spend it outside of our district. And I think part of the challenge that we discussed last time was, we're talking, I forget what the numbers were, but roughly $10 million altogether.
It was almost 4.
Almost, with phases 2, 3, 4?
Yes.
Okay. So we're talking about, in that case, about $2 million that we're the ones bearing the brunt of the impact, but that money would go somewhere else, right? So, which is why we had asked the city manager at that time to have a discussion with the county and see if there's something to be worked out here that is a little bit more equitable. I would like, I don't have a problem moving forward with this. So personally, I don't have a problem moving forward with this. If we also undertook, at the very least, to put out a request for bids somewhere in the next 60 days or so, to at least get an understanding of how much a study would cost, so we can make a better informed decision whether we want to undertake doing a study. And then we would be in a position where we could come back and say, look, we get to keep the vast majority of this money rather than having to, share it with people that do not, have to suffer the impact that we do from the actual developments. And then that I think should put us in a better position with the county to have a conversation about again, a little bit more fair distribution of the impact fees. So that'll be my recommendation, along with moving this forward, that we also request a request for bids on this.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I would agree.
Is that a fair request?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move to authorize the city manager to enter into a short-term interim interlocal agreement with Pinellas County.
I second.
City Clerk, if you please do a roll call.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ruznicki?
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott?
Yes.
And Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Next, we have item 5C, Resolution 2025-12, temporary waiver of single and two-family landscaping and accessory structure compliance requirements during and up to for 1 year following a local state of emergency. Brandon, good
A
evening.
resolution of the City of St. Pete Beach finding intent, providing emergency powers to the city manager to temporarily waive and pause enforcement of code and land development code requirements during all or part of a temporary state of emergency to allow recovery efforts on a case-by-case basis, and requiring reporting of all such pause actions to the City Commission, providing for severability, scrivener's errors, construction, and an effective date and expiration date.
Good evening, Brandon Berry, planner. I have just a quick presentation on this. We were asked to bring back to help facilitate redevelopment and reoccupancy of the city. This resolution would provide the city manager the option to waive for up to 1 year following a local state of emergency, which would be through April 2026 for the storms of 2024. The requirement for adequate ground cover or sod and trees at times of occupancy of a substantially improved 1 or 2 family home that is pursuant to Land Development Code Section 22.5 and the requirement to remove non-conforming accessory structures when a one or two family home is substantially improved. That's Land Development Code Section 3.10. Substantial improvement does include those structures that are voluntarily elevated or improved. It also includes those that were substantially damaged and need to be elevated or improved. The waiver would be on a case-by-case basis, but it doesn't authorize the city manager to authorize any kind of permanent waiver or variance to the Land Development Code that would require a Land Development Code amendment. So to give some examples of what this would allow for, and we see this frequently, we have seen many permits in for elevation, for abandonment of the lower level and construction above, largely in the same footprint in many cases. Homeowners would be required to install trees and sod under these permits because it does constitute a substantial improvement to the lot. However, they would be given additional time. They could defer some of that planning after there's a certificate of occupancy to give them more time to come up with a landscaping plan. It would defer the removal of something like if property owner had multiple sheds, that is not currently allowed by the code. That would allow them to keep them for a temporary period of time to allow for temporary storage while they work through reoccupancy. It would also defer removal of non-conforming accessory structures like pools, should they be in a setback, should they be too large for the lot. It would give homeowners more time to comply with the current code standards. This would not authorize the ability to grant a variance to the Land Development Code. That power is not currently in the Land Development Code. It still needs to go to the Board of Adjustment in most cases, to the City Commission and others. And these are a requirement. If any of these were to be permanently waived, it would require an amendment to the Land Development Code. These would be items such as allowing for a permanent reduction in the tree count or ground cover required on a property, permitting any kind of oversized accessory structure or allowing one in a setback, permitting an unpermitted accessory structure type to remain, those that are not currently allowed by the code, such as an accessory dwelling unit in a single-family development, or allowing accessory structures to remain in easements or on neighboring properties. There are cases where a property was developed such a long time ago that boundary lines may not have been well clarified, and they have structures that are partially on a neighboring property. So these are items that can be addressed, but they would have to be addressed through an amendment to the Land Development Code, through an ordinance, not through a resolution waiver. The waiver would largely allow for homeowners to have more time in recovering before they have to comply with some of the Land Development Code requirements. And should this be the direction the Commission would like to take, it would give us time to bring those ordinances back before the state of emergency waiver expires. So with that being said, I'd be happy to take any questions. Otherwise, we ask that you approve Resolution 2025-21.
Thank you, Brandon. Questions, comments?
I would assume we've had some of these issues before and we're trying to rectify them.
We have some property owners already comply with the landscape code, so nothing needs to be done when they undertake these elevations. Some have a considerable amount of work that needs to be done, and for them it can be a challenge just to getting back in their home over something that they're going to comply with, but they need a few extra months to get the landscaping. So
yeah, I do not have a problem with that. The more we can do for everybody, I think the better.
Yeah, the same. I appreciate that, Brandon, and I think that that's the important thing to remember is that, the goal is to let people focus on the things that are important. And, landscaping has some importance for sure, but it's certainly not as important as moving back into your house. And so I think it's a great step towards giving the city some flexibility for people to be able to spread out the expense and the effort of rebuilding their lives. So I think it's a good step.
City Clerk, do we have any audience comments?
There are no audience comments.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve Resolution 2025-21.
Second.
City Clerk, if you please do a roll call.
Commissioner Ruznicki,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinances. 6B, first reading of ordinance 2025-17.
An ordinance of the City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, for the purpose of amending Code of Ordinances, Chapter 98, Building and Building Regulations, to specify minimum elevation standards for replacement of flood-damaged exterior equipment and appliances not associated with a substantially improved or damaged building, providing for codification, conflicts, severability, correction of scrivener's errors, construction, publication, and an effective date.
Thank you. So just to summarize why we're bringing this forward to you, this has come up with many properties already as we recover from the storms. The Florida Building Code requires exterior flood damaged equipment to be elevated above the design flood elevation. That is a statewide requirement, which is 1 foot above the base flood elevation, which varies throughout the city, regardless of whether the home is voluntarily or mandatorily elevated. So even those properties that have not sustained substantial damage or that are not voluntarily elevated, if the equipment, the exterior equipment, generator, condensers, other exterior equipment has been flood damaged, it needs to be elevated to the design flood elevation, which is the elevation that you would typically, that would be the minimum elevation for a home. There's been some back and forth on this. We have received confirmation from the state as of last week that this is the correct interpretation. That is how the city is supposed to be interpreting this standard. The challenge that we have locally is that we have properties where the design flood elevation is 7 or more feet. The home isn't being elevated, it's remaining at grade. It was able to be restored without exceeding that substantial damage threshold. The homeowner decided to keep it at grade, but the equipment has to be elevated 6, 7 feet in the air. It obviously causes challenges, you know, when the roof's low, and there can be other difficulties with that. In some cases, it's had to been mounted on the roof. They might have to locate it in another yard, which can be a challenge as well. And the other stipulation for that, and it's what we've really been engaging with the state on, is that it doesn't require the interior corresponding equipment to be elevated. So you may have an air handler that's at 5 feet NAVD, and the exterior condenser needs to be at 11 feet NAVD. So usually if one's flooded, you replace them both. It doesn't necessarily contribute to resilience to have the exterior equipment elevated when the interior is not. It doesn't apply to generators, it doesn't apply to water heaters, but that's the most frequent type of replaced equipment is condensers under the storm, and it's a challenge we've been having and homeowners have been experiencing. So what we're proposing is to amend Code of Ordinances Chapter 98 to allow equipment to be elevated on non-substantially damaged buildings to the higher of 4 feet above grade or the finished floor elevation. This does align with the proposed amendment to the Florida Building Code, which if approved will take effect on January 1st, 2027. So we're effectively adopting this about 1.5 years ahead of schedule. I'm sorry for my clip art drawings, but this is just an example of what is being proposed. You have a home that is built pretty firm. It's built 1 foot above grade. It has a finished floor at 4 feet NAVD. Grade is at 3. Were it to be elevated, it would need to be elevated to at least a 9-foot design flood elevation. This is pre-storm conditions. It went through a storm. The home was not substantially damaged. It was able to be restored at its existing finished floor elevation of 4 feet. However, the exterior equipment was elevated. Should this amendment be adopted, the equipment could be elevated to 7 feet instead of 9 feet. That would comply again with the proposed amendment to the Florida Building Code. So it would be the higher of the finished floor or 4 feet above grade, which is 7 feet in this case. So it's 2 fewer feet than it would need to be elevated to under the design flood elevation. This does not apply for any structure that is substantially damaged or which the homeowner voluntarily undertakes a substantial improvement. They decide to elevate the structure above the required design flood elevation. The equipment would need to be elevated to at least the design flood elevation. It's 9 feet in this case. They could elevate to 11, still install the equipment at 9 feet, but it would need to be elevated along with the residence. So this would not apply to those. It would only apply to those structures that were restored at their current elevation, which is below the required design flood elevation. There is a bit of risk with this ordinance. We are amending the Florida Building Code, and we're adding in something that is currently contrary to the Florida Building Code. It requires elevation above the to the design flood elevation. This is consistent, however, with the proposed amendment. We have worked with the state's consultant. This is what they're proposing exactly as stated. So we're just effectively bringing this in 1.5 years early. There is a risk of appeal to it. We do find that to be of a low risk, low adversity. It's a benefit to homeowners and businesses. It's usually very individual to that property. It's not something that could have a significant negative community effect if it's approved. It also doesn't substantially reduce resiliency for the reason I gave earlier. The interior equipment typically isn't elevated, so should there be another storm event, a lot of times this equipment is going to have to be replaced anyway. With that being said, we do need to bring this back for a second and final reading. We're still working with the state on finalizing the language, but we do ask that you move to approve the first reading of this ordinance.
Thank you, Brandon. Commissioner Robinson?
I have a couple of questions. We originally did the emergency ordinance.
Yes.
2024-14, so this will supersede that, obviously.
Correct. We have the Land Development Code standards, which relate more to the dimensional setbacks, but this already supersedes that, so it would stay in effect.
Okay,
Yes.
just want to make sure. And are there any ill effects to homeowners who would build to this and then it'd be repealed?
The ill effect would be requiring it being elevated above the design flood elevation, which is a standard currently in place. It would require later compliance, but in talking with the building official, we think we've vetted this to the extent we
We'd
can.
have to do it now anyway, and then potentially, okay.
Right.
Just wanted to make sure there were no other effects that would happen. Okay. Thank you.
What happens in the event where outside goes to 7 feet, inside there's no room to go to 7 feet?
So the Florida Building Code standard is only for exterior equipment. It's not for interiors, so this doesn't completely rectify that situation, but it does reduce the height by several feet in a few cases. So, and we do have a few open permits that would benefit from this if it were not, if it were passed.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, the eaves are a big concern when you get that high up and trying to give enough ventilation to get your AC out from underneath that.
Yeah. Or if you have a 2-story house and you got nowhere to put the ACs in the garage, you got nowhere to move it up to.
Brendan, does the building code not differentiate between substantially damaged or damaged? They just don't use that word, right? It's just a requirement because of the flood zone that they have to raise it.
So substantially damaged is also considered substantially improved. Improved, if it's voluntarily substantially improved, it doesn't necessarily mean that the structure was damaged or substantially damaged, but this term substantial improvement includes damage, and it does differentiate. In this case, it would require the elevation of the equipment to the design flood elevation. This would allow for a distance less than that in most cases. So but that would only be for residences that were restored under the 50% rule, those that can remain below design flood.
Okay.
Commissioner Robinson?
One more question. And again, this is flood damaged equipment only, meaning if your AC worked after the event, and so it wouldn't be considered flood damaged, but then you decided you wanted to change it out afterwards, it would not, you could do whatever at that point you wanted.
That's correct. And this is already a higher standard in Florida. It's higher than the National Flood Insurance Program requires, but this is only for flood damaged equipment. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any audience comments?
I have no audience comments.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Make the motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-17.
Second.
City Clerk, if you please do a roll call.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosnicki,
Yes.
and Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have number 7, items for discussion. The first one is 7A, announcing intent to present a resolution to declare a greenhouse a green reuse brownfield area designation for 75 and 85 75 Corey Avenue and 85 Corey Circle. City Manager?
Brandon's going to make the formal announcement.
Just 2 sentences. This is a restatement of the same announcement we made at the prior City Commission meeting. Because City Hall was closed, we statutorily have to announce it again. We'll bring the resolution back to you next Tuesday for the first reading. It is a resolution, but it has to be read twice based on the state statute. So that'll come back to you next week. The applicant will be present to answer questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Next, we have items for discussion. 7B, the noise ordinance. So in having had an opportunity to review the feedback from our residents, the emails I received, the conversations we had, also the discussion that we had earlier tonight. And I would like to bring a proposal for the Commission's consideration on how to move this, on what next steps might be. And I think probably the best way to sum it up is, I don't remember his last name, but a gentleman by the name of Robert. I think he worked at Bongos, he mentioned. I don't know if he's still here or not, but he was talking about specifically how code enforcement was dealing with their property and kind of helping them come into compliance. And so I think one approach that we may consider is a targeted enforcement by code enforcement of the current ordinances. So we had a establishment here not too long ago that was violating the noise ordinance well beyond 10 p.m. And so what we did in this case was we designated code enforcement officers who had to come in after hours and on the weekends. So normally they don't work weekends and after hours. So I think what might be a good step forward is to, because of where we are today, let's put, let's say, a 7.5 month on this. So allow the city manager to work with code enforcement to identify the problem properties or the problem situations that they encounter. Come up with a plan for targeted enforcement so that they can arrange hours or schedules to address those specific items that do come up, because they do come up, and they come up frequently, and they come up from several properties, not just in District 4, District 2, District 1. District 3, they've been quiet, so they've been good. Or at least I haven't heard from them.
They come down to District.
So we've had a few in the past. So this is not an isolated incident, but this would allow code enforcement to come up with a plan on how they would address it, and I would ask the city manager to maybe come back with an update 1st of January, so give them 4.5 months to deal with it, just to kind of give us an update of what they've been doing, how it's been working out. And I also think, in fairness, we should extend this beyond, well, at least all the way through season, so till April 1st. That's why I said 7.5 months, so that we have a better understanding of is what we have working, if properly enforced and given the adequate resources. And if not, then we can review a plan and say, okay, this is what's worked, this is what hasn't worked. And then we can also use a targeted approach if an ordinance were to be necessary.
Can I add something too,
Sure.
Mayor? Because you mentioned District 3, and I want to say it's not about music or noise. And as someone I think here mentioned it, our problem, or my problem in my district, has always been the nuisance. Right? It's that continuous property that we continuously get calls from, or I get calls, right? When a resident is constantly calling me, and then they're frustrated because it's always the repetitive repeater, right? And I don't know if this is an ordinance. I don't even know if there's an ordinance that exists for the city for what do we do about the repetitive, right? Because the issues we've been hearing, or the things that we've been seeing, whether it was in District 4 on those, and I'm not going to name the names, right? We all know here, right, who the repetitive repeaters are, right? And the nastiness about it, right? Because it gets ugly, and that's what upsets the residents. It's not about music. It's not about noise. When I had an 80-year-old resident in my neighborhood who would call me, and I told her, go ahead and call me, and I wasn't even a commissioner at that time. I was just president for the neighborhood, because at 2 p.m. there's someone welding on their driveway, and that's loud and obnoxious, and putting speakers on, and this is going on at 2 o'clock in the morning, so the cops come out and so forth, but it's happening all the time. Right, and it wasn't about the noise, it's just the nuisance, right? So, and I think that really that's what I keep hearing. I don't live in the other districts, but I've gone to, I moved from Reddington Beach to St. Pete Beach because it was kind of quiet in Reddington Beach, North Reddington Beach, very residential, and I did hang out at Postcard Inn and Jimmy B's, and my husband is a drummer, so I know how loud it can get, right? So in my house, and my neighbors know it. So it's not about music, you know, but it's about the repetitive nuisance that happens in our city, and that's really what I would like to see is how do we address that, because I think that's really what the issue has been. You hear, like you mentioned, Robert had mentioned, and he's talking, I think, about bongos, that how you can come to an agreement about what's the problem, let's work with our neighbors, right? We don't want to be a nuisance to each other. We want to be community. You're all talking about community, right? We want to be together, work together. Well, how do we work together? You know, it's not about not wanting fun, like the other gentleman. I like fun, right? So I think that really has always been what the issues have been, is it's just that repetitiveness of the, well, nothing's going to happen. I mean, that's what they call, when they call me, I know I've got to call you, I know how to go to C-Click fix this, and I got to call whatever, but you're not going to do nothing about it, right? Nothing happens about it. And I think that's really what's always been the issue. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruznicki. Commissioner Maldonado?
Yeah, I'd like to just point out the obvious is that, first of all, if you're looking at the decibel reader, we've been violating that pretty much all night. And that was something that was brought to my attention, that coming onto the commission, not having had the history that you guys have had, you know, I look at it a little bit differently. The first thing I looked at was data. And I understand that last year was an anomaly, you know, post-storm recovery and things. But one of the things that we need to do, and I agree with your assertion to push this back, would be to follow the data and to encourage those residents to make those formal complaints, because otherwise it's just commissioners getting emails and calls. But when it comes to code enforcement, we need to give them more ability to identify the repeat offenders, so that the sheriff, when they come out, they can take the necessary steps to punish those people, quite frankly, and to benefit the rest of the community that is behaving and that are being good neighbors. So I think that's part of the formula as well.
One thing to add to that is when you receive those emails, so again, my standard operating procedure is city manager can vouch for it, as she gets a CC, as does code enforcement, because I do want it on the record to make sure that we do address the repetitive, the ones where we have continual issues. And I do, you know, let them know, call code enforcement, call the sheriff's office if you need to. We've had evenings where I've gone out and sat with the resident at 11:30 on the porch, right next to you, to take a look and see it firsthand, and then to be able to provide something to code enforcement, the sheriff to work with. Commissioner Robinson?
I agree, and I've said it for a while about the code enforcement and whether this had been an issue that, you know, we haven't had code enforcement on the weekends, and we haven't had them after hours. So I think that's a good start there. I also feel there needs to be a complaint log. I find that the sheriff's department, whether it just doesn't get back to code enforcement, but there's been times that complaints are not logged, and those need to be addressed. That we need to have a log for that from the sheriff's department. It needs to go to code, and we need to keep a track on that. Also have a question. Reading through, I did a little homework. I looked at Panama Beach, Panama City. Agreed that, you know, Naples isn't really us. We are very unique, but there are other cities, and I looked at other cities and their levels. Again, people must realize that there's also that, where are you registering it at? Are you registering it at the source, or are you registering at the complaint? So there's a wide variety of that. So that's a little bit more entailed, but for the most part, what I saw was between, you know, with a few outliers, because I did look at Key West, and that was a whole different thing. But Clearwater, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Sarasota, Panama Beach, kind of looked at that. They also threw another one in there, and it ended up being a little bit higher of a decibel rating. But, you know, they do DBA, which is what you can hear. and DBC is what you can feel, meaning your windows shake. And they I would like to see some data on that from staff, whether we need to add that component in it, because that would cover those low noises and the ones that are vibrating. And typically, from what I've seen on other cities, it's a higher, actually, rating. So if it's a 65 for the DBA, it's 70 for DBC, so they register both of those. That would just my thoughts on that. But there's definitely a wide range, and for most part, some of the other cities are 60, 55 with their ordinances.
Commissioner?
So the other thing too, though, is that I think that most of the resistance has been the hours. And I think that, you know, at least most of the feedback that I've been getting, that 7 p.m. is a heartache. And as we've seen expressed by musicians and business owners, that is not something that's going to be compatible with sustaining, you know, a vibrant city, as well as the establishments that rely on that. So.
Yeah, but I think, too, that was taken a little bit out of context because, again, permits and CUPs cover outdoor music, and the 5-degree was another way to gauge stuff. So, but nevertheless, I agree with you that the 10 o'clock was a amenable time for most people.
And that goes back to a comment that was made about gaslighting. And I think that the culprit tonight has really been the media in terms of just putting things out there prematurely without, you know, doing adequate research. So I think that was part of the miscommunication as well.
Well, I think there were some articles that actually said that we still had the clearly audible and 200 feet, which was null and void on everything. But the media still ran with that and still presented that, and that was incorrect.
I received several messages from reporters for interviews. This is just for your own information, to give you an idea of how these things go down, because, Mia, you're absolutely correct about the gaslighting. And my response to all of them was, happy to talk to you. Did you watch the last commission meeting? How many do you think said yes? Exactly. And I said, well, watch the commission meeting and then we can talk. Well, I got a story I got to run at 5 o'clock. Okay, so you're going to run a story without any context, with inaccurate information, without actually getting the details on it? Okay. That's on them. That's, you know. But that happens. Look, it's...
They didn't even read the minutes because it was clearly in the minutes from the last meeting. That's sad, too.
Commissioner Marriott.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
I'm sorry, before you get started, I just would like to make a request to give, I know normally we don't take audience comments at this point, but just to kind of facilitate a further discussion, while you make your comments, if anybody else would like to fill out a card to speak on this subject since we added this, would you all be opposed to that?
No.
Okay, if you would like to take 3 minutes and speak after you've heard us and have any other further suggestions, thoughts, or comments, please do so now. Sorry for interrupting you.
Sure. So thank you, Mayor, for bringing this back up. And I think you're exactly right about what our path forward should be. And there's a couple of reasons for it. And one is that I think we always need to be mindful of what problem are we trying to solve. And if we have an ordinance on the books that can solve our problem and we're just not enforcing it, then creating a new ordinance isn't necessarily the correct answer, right? Like we should be really solid on enforcing what we have before we make new ordinances. And so I think that is by far the most reasonable path forward, is to really try to enforce what we have, pay very close attention to if it works, how it works. I think having code enforcement on nights and weekends when we need them is critical to being able to do that. And then to Commissioner Reznicki's point, I think it was just a few commission meetings ago that we passed an ordinance that allows us to deal with nuisance properties, right? And so I'm sure that extends to multiple violations for things like a noise ordinance as well. So I think we're putting ourselves in a really good place to be able to, better handle things that are a repetitive nuisance. And by really enforcing what we have, we can be much more clear on what we can enforce and what we can't. And so if we do need to change something in the future, at least we go into it knowing a little bit more about what's reasonable or why we're changing something. And so, so again, thank you, Mayor. I think that was absolutely the correct method to proceed forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. City Clerk.
Dylan Witkowski.
You will have to restate your full name and address, please.
Dylan Witkowski, address is 11522 60th Terrace, Seminole, Florida. And so based off just this last discussion here, what I'm hearing, well, I have two things. One is, and I think we just heard this discussion the first time, was there's no real teeth to the current ordinance, is kind of what I'm hearing if there's repeat offenders and there's nothing really being done. So if that's the case, then yeah, any new law that doesn't have teeth isn't going to be effective. My second question is, the first time is my understanding that the special decibel reader from City Hall has to be brought out in certain instances as opposed to what deputies already have on hand. And I know that's inconvenient for whoever has to do that after hours on the weekends. Is that something that could maybe be changed to make it easier? Because if they're all calibrated the same, I don't see what difference it makes. That's just a suggestion. But yeah, I mean, if we have an existing ordinance and people are complaining after 10 p.m., then I would be frustrated too if I felt like I wasn't being listened to. So yeah, I agree. That sounds like a reasonable course to go with. And yeah, anything new isn't going to fix an old problem. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Dylan.
Mia Hartley.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Mia Hartley, 680 71st Avenue, St. Pete Beach, Florida. I think we spent a lot of the beginning of this meeting just kind of getting through the muck of what the social media storm brought with it. I understand, Mayor, starting off with the statement of, when did we say we're going to kill live music at 7 p.m.? You never said that, right? And I think that also enlivened a lot of people because while some people were confused and still wanted to talk about 200 feet, and we're all trying to talk about it outside before we come in here, that no, that's not being discussed anymore. Plainly Audible's not being discussed anymore. There was still a lot of frustration about numbers that weren't reflective of what we had considered together as during the city workshop, which I thought was very constructive. So it was just the lack of reflection of what was discussed that I think really frustrated people the most, and not necessarily just a social media storm, but just this isn't what we talked about. This wasn't what we thought we were going to come to some sort of compromise on. So while I don't apologize for having passion about this, I do think once everyone sort of levels out and we get through the muck of all that, we can actually look at each other, and I appreciate you adding this to the end of the agenda. I do want to mention, though, we talk about this not being about music, and I've certainly had nuisance neighbors in this town, so I understand the frustration that comes with that. I think there needs to be targeted addressing of those issues. But I remember watching back to the January meeting before most of us even knew that this was going to be a discussion in that first reading. And I think what scared me the most, I was going over Gandy Bridge to my work, and I was listening to it, and there was jokes being made about music preference. And well, I mean, if it's rap music, I'm probably more likely to have something to say about that than classical, which has plenty of undertones to it in the statement itself. And that's where it really started for me, is we're talking about preference of music and how subjectively that could affect how decisions are being made in this city. We're making jokes about it. That scared me. So I know we talk about this isn't about live music, this isn't about bands, but those were the comments that were being made by this commission in that meeting before any of us started showing up. So this isn't just blind rage, this is something that we've been watching. And while this continues to be a topic, we're going to keep showing up. That being said, I really like all the comments that have been made here at the end of this meeting. I think approaching those targeted venues or neighbors that are creating those issues, I understand that. I think there's a lot of solutions that can be found together. But until these conversations reflect the conversations you've had with us, we're just going to keep showing up. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mia.
Jeff Bonnell.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Jeffrey Bonnell, 440 80th Way here in St. Pete Beach. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys. There is a process called the democratic process by some. But that process is our government, our leadership that represents us, that we put you in those chairs to do so. You have to make decisions. And when those decisions affect us and we don't agree, we get to voice our opinions. And the process requires you to listen and make adjustments as needed so that we all get along. And I saw a great example of that this evening. So thank you. For those people that want to have a voice in opposition to this, those that want to say, hey, we don't think there should be live music, or whatever it is their complaint is, they have to follow a process too. State law requires them to file a code enforcement complaint, provide their name and address, and that's the process. They don't get to call your personal cell phone or shoot you an email and say, hey, Adrian, you got to do something about this. Karen, this guy next door, you got to help me out. That's not the process. So when they do that, remind them that the process exists for them the same as it does for us. If they have a complaint, tell them to get involved. Tell them to come on up here, fill out a yellow card, come up here, and get involved in the conversation. I honestly can't tell you what the opposition to any of this is because I haven't heard their voice. They haven't come to speak. They haven't engaged in the conversation. All they've done is complain behind closed curtains. I'm all about hearing what they have to say. Maybe they have a valid point that I haven't heard, but if they don't get involved in the conversation, if they don't follow the process, then they shouldn't have a voice, and they shouldn't be considered when making decisions on how we govern the community. So I appreciate your adjustment on the fly, adding this to the agenda, and making a reasonable leadership decision to say, I've heard a lot of voices and we need to reconsider this. So again, thank you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Kevin Hannigan.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Kevin Hannigan, 651 64th. Thank you. That was awesome. That was, I think you said it, democracy into January. You heard, you listened, and you changed. And man, you guys did it tonight. And thank you very much for that. And I don't know if it's appropriate to say rock on or classical on or rap on, but that worked and that was awesome. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Kevin.
John Kurzman.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
John Kurzman, Bahia Honda Way South, St. Pete Beach.
We do have a pool going on the one time Mr. Kurzman shows up without this iPhone or pad or whatever.
No, I need
We're up to $1,200 if you want to put $5 on it.
It's not showing on the screen what I'm showing on my screen. There we go. Yeah, you can zoom in even more. There we go. So, first of all, I really want to thank you guys for coming to what I think is the right decision to put this aside. It reminded me that one of the people that was actually very involved in a lawsuit regarding noise said to me, we don't really need a change of the rules. We just need the current rule to be enforced. And so, I mean, I forgot that one. I mean, I mentioned it one of the earlier times, but, you know, we have to consider that. But some other things I think I think it's just relevant to mention is, for instance, Realtor.com has an overlay for flooding. They have an overlay for noise. And so this is the scale that goes, it's not even showing on the screen, but it has a scale, and you can see, you're not seeing these bright yellow colors. Go into Realtor.com, click on the map, and then you have a choice of overlays. And do that, because just same way the city has multiple sign zones for that ordinance that just got updated. Had too many, it has less. But having a one-size-fit-all is really, really difficult and not fair. And to summarize, you know, the city's gone through a lot, and anything that we're doing that isn't helping us just get people into their homes or back to their jobs or back to their residences, I think is a distraction. And I'm just hoping that until we are rolled back, that every time you're dealing with a complaint or something, that you can just sit there and go, is there a way we can address it so that we can just focus? I mean, it's just terrific to see the other ordinances that you guys talked about tonight. They didn't get nearly the discussion, but these are great ordinances. You saw people having trouble getting into their homes. You said, let's make it that they don't have to raise their air conditioners high. You saw that people are being hung up on the plantings when they're trying to get back in. You said, wait, we'll just deal with that later. Some really great common sense things, and it's getting lost. And you do one thing, you're always remembered by the worst decision or whatever, but you do one thing, someone just mentioned 7 p.m., and all of a sudden it turned into a whole big thing. And I'm really glad that you've rectified things and you're able to focus on the things that matter. So, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Seth Campbell.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Seth Campbell, 460 15th Avenue North, St. Pete. And I think this is the third time I've come to the meetings. I thank you for all your time. I know it goes on and on, so I'll be brief. One thing I want to reiterate is the possibility, some places have entertainment zones to where you could be a little more lenient on the decibel levels on, like, you know, near Jimmy B's or something like that along that strip, versus nobody wants the guy, you know, welding at 2 a.m, blasting Ozzy Osbourne all night, which is fun, but you don't want that. None of us want that either. I think we don't want, like, 20-year-olds throwing parties at Airbnbs on their dad's, you know, account or whatever. So there has to be, I think we're all on the same page with that. So it's like, whatever you can do to, like, cut through that and separate those nuisances from active business. I think anything that we can do to work together on that is a compromise for everybody. And of course, you won't make everybody happy 100%, but I think that'll help. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
There are no more comment cards.
Thank you, City Clerk. City Manager, does that give you adequate direction?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have reports, starting with the City Clerk.
I just want to formally congratulate Deputy City Clerk Ginny Bodkin for getting the Employee of the Quarter. I think it is very well deserved. She has been instrumental in helping me get started here.
Very much so. Thank you. City Manager.
2 quick reports. So I've heard some feedback from the commission as well as our Finance and Budget Committee, and I know we have been spraying a fire hose of budget information at you. So I'm going to add a budget workshop, I'll call it 5A, to next Tuesday's meeting. During presentations, you are not taking action items, but it'll give you the first bite at this final budget presentation before we bring it to you for adoption, and then we will still hold the budget workshop the following week to give you some time to digest and bring back additional questions. This will be the largest presentation you've seen to date because it includes financial policies. The numbers are finally coming together. We've sharpened the last pencil. And when we move out of that final workshop, we'll be bringing it back to you for adoption. Second announcement, staff and I met with Sheriff Galtari today, and we had a very nice meeting. We are in the process of transitioning some leadership. We have a new captain and a couple new sergeants coming on. We had some retirements and promotions within the sheriff's office. So I just wanted to share that with you, and we've started some conversations. I have his personal cell phone number, so he said I can call him anytime. So just some good relationship building and working on improving our reporting of community concerns and response from the sheriff's office. End of report.
Thank you, City Manager. City Attorney?
I have just one thing to report. You will remember there were questions earlier about state investigations, and the answer that we gave at that time was that the state agencies would not comment, and we had no comment as to whether or not there was an ongoing investigation. We do have some results from the Commission on Ethics in Tallahassee. As released on July 30th in a press release, a meeting in Tallahassee of the Commission on Ethics took place on July 25th in a closed session. And the Florida Commission on Ethics took action on a few matters. 11 of those matters were probable cause hearings. A finding of probable cause is not a determination a violation occurred. Such a determination is made only after a full evidentiary hearing on the allegations. In the particular case involving St. Pete Beach, former city manager Alex Ray, no probable cause was found on an allegation that Alex Ray, St. Pete Beach city manager, misused his position by making payments to a vendor that exceeded his expenditure authority, awarded contracts without the required commission approval, and failed to provide oversight of P-card transactions. That doesn't mean that he didn't do those things, it's just that he did not do them as part of misusing his position. This is at a stage in the commissioner's proceedings that's called the second stage. So that involves a probable cause determination, and that's made only after there is a full preliminary investigation. If there was to be a probable cause, they would do an even more in-depth investigation. But they did do an investigation that was thorough to determine whether there was probable cause to believe there was a violation of ethics laws. If the commission finds no probable cause to believe there was a violation of the ethics laws, as it did in this case, the complaint will be dismissed and will become a matter of public record. All requests for the public records should be directed to the Florida Commission on Ethics in Tallahassee, and their website instructs you how you can do that, or you can call them, and they have an email address as well.
Thank you, City Attorney. Commissioners, District 4.
Yeah, I'd like to once again commend our city manager and public works, as well as our fire department, for coming out to Vina and deal with some flooding on one of our streets. You know, we did have a 25-year storm. We found a blockage, and we certainly do appreciate the quick responsive action to prevent further damage to homes in the wake of an aftermath. And we certainly didn't need folks to get flooded again, so we appreciate that. So thank you so much.
District 3.
And I would just say, I concur, because it happened in District 3 too. So there was the fire, as well as public services, were out there as soon as they could get through the flood. But the streets in Bella Vista, Lido, and the Don were flooded pretty bad. So I do thank you for that. Just a couple of meetings are up and coming for District 3. Next Monday, August 21st at 6 p.m. at Lido Beach Park. This is like an open house, no agenda, just for any residents in that area. And I'll just say it's for that area, Lido, Boca, or any of the condominiums, because they don't have as many association meetings as my Bella Vista and Don Cesar associations do. So that's just open for anybody really in District 3. And then the Don Cesar neighborhood has another community meeting on August 27th here at City Hall. And now I forgot the time. Is it 5 or 6? You remember? It'll be posted or email sent. I'll verify. I don't know. I'm stuck on 5, but I think it's 5 here in City Hall. And that's it.
Thank you. District 2.
I just want to again say thank you as well to Jenny Bodkin and the Fire and Rescue for their service and their work. Just wanted to also let District 2 know, looking to put together something to talk about the Quarry Landings project and get input from the residents in the area for District 2, and be able to work off of that info. I have library hours as well, 5 to 5:45, September 2nd.
Thank you. District 1?
Yes. So I think recovery is continuing pretty well in District 1. Good for good or for bad. There are more houses all of a sudden being demolished every day in District 1. So it's sad to see, but it also means that there's going to be progress of new elevated structures being built, and that's a good thing to see. So, so I think that's great. We've had a couple of new businesses open in District 1. The gym at St. Pete Beach has opened in what used to be the Fit for Life building. So that's really exciting to see. And I've heard rumor and seen work going on in the laundromat on Blind Pass also. So hopefully we'll have a laundromat back on this side of town again soon, which I think everyone will be super stoked about. And then I just wanted to mention that, you know, one of the best things about this position is all the people that you get to meet that you would never meet otherwise. And as much as this noise ordinance has been a lot of drama, deserved mostly, it's been a pleasure getting to talk to a lot of people that I never would have gotten to talk to before. And so I wanted to give a shout out to Mia Hartley, because I would never have gotten to meet her or know that we have such a fantastic musician right here in St. Pete Beach who just released a new song, and I think she's great. So, so congratulations, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. City Manager, gonna put you in the spot again. Do we have an update on beach renourishment and Publix? Is there any new information?
I do not have any update.
Okay. Would you be able to
I'll
bring us?
provide that next Tuesday.
Okay, just so that we know what the schedule is for the beach nourishment.
Absolutely.
Considering that we're in the middle of storm season, that'll be nice to know. I thought, again, you can't quote me on this because I don't remember the exact dates, but I thought they were supposed to be done by September. And then just be nice to hear something about what's happening with Publix, just so that we can provide the community with updates. I realize that's not up to us. That all has to do with what the tenant and what the owner of the property itself ultimately decide to do. I think there's a few other matters with other tenants in that building as well that just factor into it, but it'd be nice to just have something we can share with the community. All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.